they can't, they kind of flip out a bit.
So what about the government's arguments for bad things that'll happen? There's certainly an argument for that, right? Like I would think that the bad folks that want to blow up buildings, they're probably using encryption, right? They're also folks that want to trade around pictures of kids in awful compromising positions. They're probably using some encryption, right?
Well, maybe. I haven't run into many of them, but it's certainly possible.
Never seen them.
Bad guys always use whatever they can use. How many bad guys use the telephone system? Maybe all of them?
Yeah.
So if you make those arguments, you can take them forever. Listening to them, you think no crime was ever solved before, 2001. It's just more or less fear-mongering. And if they came to a lot of crypto people and said, look, here's one particular case, can you help me? It's a real bad guy, and we'll convince you that it's a real bad guy. Some of them might help them, but they come in with legal orders and fear and intimidation, and they try to break down the doors. And what they do is, just help us with this one thing. And what they're really doing is breaking every device and getting everything for all time. It's disingenuous.
And what were some of the other focuses of the cypherpunks? Was it entirely just encryption, or what were their other goals?
Well, it was a wide group and a lot of people with a lot of different goals. They were very interested in financial cryptography. Cypherpunks is where Bitcoin comes from.
Yeah. I'd like to point out, there's an interesting story that came out. Sorry, Paul, I want to real quick want to step down. There was an interesting story that came out last week about I think it was some college professor demanding that we get rid of the $100 bill and the €500 note because they're used far too often in drug deals. So here's this college professor saying that we need to get rid of government currency because it's used in drug deals, and I'm sure out of the other side of his mouth he'd say the same thing about Bitcoin. Apparently this guy doesn't want anything that isn't controlled by the government. So anyway, I'm sorry, you were talking about financial encryption, and just it reminded me of that crazy story.
No, the story you have is a good one. It fits in because the real issue is not that they really give a damn about money laundering. Otherwise, they would have shut down HSBC and Wachovia when between the two of them they laundered $450 billion of drug lord money, something like that. No one went to jail, by the way. But it's all about control. They want to eliminate cash so they can install negative interest rates and just rob continents at a time slowly. So that's what they want. That's really what it's all about.
So you've got a book out that's sort of predicting how the future is going to be. And in many ways, cypherpunks were about the future. They were sort of looking at what might happen and what was happening and how that might affect the future. What are some of the things you see around encryption, AI, cryptocurrencies, things like this?
Okay. Cryptocurrencies I love. They have their issues. Bitcoin may have to have little fixes here and there, but it's a wonderful idea. I love it to death, and I want it to do really well. When you start getting into the big data systems, and by that I mean the system that's called big data. It's probably too much to explain right now, but this is a giant data system that takes mass surveillance, among other things, and analyzes it in a different sort of way. And what it can do is pick hundreds, thousands, millions of targets at once and learn what affects them. So when you are on the internet surfing around, they have all of your surfing patterns. I mean, Google has it. Yeah, Facebook has it. This is what they do. That's how they make money. I mean, you don't pay for the service. You're the product.
Right. If you don't pay for the service, you're the product, and the chances are good you're the product even if you are paying for the service.
Yes, that too. But they take all this stuff, and these systems learn what you respond to. Already, you go on Google, and I go on Google, and we see different things. Same thing on YouTube and Facebook and everything else, and they run experiments doing all this, these systems learn how to do it, and they learn to adapt to individuals. This is very, very dangerous.
It's kind of like
forward.
It's kind of like that Captain America movie, The Winter Soldier, that came out. This Armin Zola, the evil guy, created a program that would learn about people and predict who is going to be disruptive in the future, and they were going to just kill them all, wipe out 20,000 people, and it would make the world a safer place. And I suspect 20,000 is probably the right number.
I don't know. It could be.
Paul Rosenberg is with us. Paul, hang on. Hold that thought. We're going to bring you back here. We'll continue the discussion. Our toll-free number, 855-450-FREE. If you've got a question for a cypherpunk, it's Free Talk Live.
Every once in a while, you get information that's worth changing your life for. This is one such time. You can save up to and beyond 25% on all purchases at Amazon. You probably heard of Bitcoin and just not thought much about it. You certainly know that you can get competitive pricing at Amazon, but now you can get a 25% discount on nearly everything you need to live. I've just given you a huge raise, and all you have to do is claim it. You go to saveitpurse.com and open an account. Do this right now. Don't wait. Then you fund the account with Bitcoin. You can buy them through expresscoin.com with a check or money order. There are other ways to get Bitcoin, but that's fast, safe, and easy. This information is worth you changing the way you do things. Go to saveitpurse.com right now, get signed up, and cash in on the huge raise I'm offering you. 15 to 25% off of everything at Amazon through saveitpurse.com. It's saveatpurse.com.
What would your life be like if you woke up each morning with new vitality, feeling better than you have in years, and you noticed a difference in your sleeping patterns, blood sugar levels, and had a sense of well-being overall? There's something that is changing thousands of people's lives, and you could be one of them. It's called Heart and Body Extract. Sharon Harris, co-creator of Heart and Body Extract, talks about the positive effects of Heart and Body Extract.
What happens with the formula Heart and Body Extract is it's giving the body the necessary vitamins, minerals, amino acids, enzymes, and phytonutrients so the body will heal itself. And yes, the body does have the ability to balance blood pressure, balance cholesterol, clean and unclog the arteries. It can also work on balancing the circulation for diabetics. So the body is an amazing thing. It simply needs some help so it has the tools to heal itself.
Heart and Body Extract gets results. To order your 2-month supply, call now, toll free at 866-295-5305. Order online at hbextract.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, add yourself to the Shire map at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. You can listen to Free Talk Live on the radio, podcast, satellite, webcam, and our live streams. But did you know you can listen to Free Talk Live from any phone, anywhere? Add this number to your phone, 213-493-0308. It's a long-distance call, so make sure you're familiar with your phone's calling plan. The listen lines are airing the latest episode of Free Talk Live 24 hours a day, including our live shows. Call 213-493-0308. That's 213-493-0308.
Cryptocurrency and peer-to-peer tech developments happen fast. Stay in the loop with the Daily Decrypt, a new video channel and podcast that will keep you on top of the latest innovations in crypto finance, security, networking, transportation, and gadgetry like drones and 3D printers. Subscribe to Daily Decrypt on YouTube and SoundCloud and be an early adopter of the future. The Daily Decrypt.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You can join us here if you want. Maybe you've got a question for a cypherpunk. Paul Rosenberg is on the line with us here. We're going to bring him back. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. He is an author and was involved in the Cypherpunks movement, which I got to admit, I'm kind of a geek. I don't really know that much about this. Let's get into that here, and you can, of course, join us, 855-450-FREE. Also, ProXPN, it's a virtual private network that encrypts your data right from your computer or mobile device. They've got OpenVPN, which is the gold standard of network encryption, with apps for Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, and there's Linux support as well. Unlike other VPNs, ProXPN keeps no logs of your activities whatsoever, and if you're a Windows user, ask ProXPN about changing your DNS settings for even greater anonymity. They accept credit card and even Bitcoin, and if you use code FTL50, you'll get 50% off of the regular monthly price for the lifetime of an annual account. So get started over at proxpn.com and use code FTL50 to take back the privacy that is your right. That's proxpn.com, code FTL50. As we go back to Paul Rosenberg on the line with us from, I think you said you were in Chicago, Paul, is that right?
I am. Mm-hmm.
So, Paul, I thought it was pretty insightful. You're talking about these big computing companies out there. I don't trust the government to be very effective in creating profiles on people, but I certainly trust the marketplace too. And I would think folks like Facebook, Google, these people understand, these companies understand how important data is, and they're creating profiles on you all the time when you use their systems without some kind of protection or whatever it is that you might do, and that they're able to sort of predict buying habits, predict personality traits, those sorts of things, and in the future, once that technology sort of trickles down to the government, and maybe it already has, I don't know, that could be kind of disturbing, right?
Oh, deeply. Now, the issue, it even gets worse than that, because it's not them predicting what you do. It's them getting you to do what they want you to do.
Well, that's very interesting, because
they're very good at it.
They are. Everybody who's been picked up by the FBI for these terrorism threats over the last since 9/11, I don't believe the FBI has caught one single person who they didn't train, fund, give the mission to, set them up, basically. Obviously, they had to have some will to do what it was that they were doing, but they were all their stooges.
Oh, yeah, I'm like you. I can't think of anybody who they didn't. And the scary thing with this stuff is they can do it with automation. So no human being has to really be involved on a lot of these things. Just machines do it, which are very cheap and very fast.
Yeah, and they're going to get cheaper and faster. So you've got a new book out that's sort of talking about what might be happening in the future, and that's what I want to find out. People, the more specialized a person is, the better they're going to be at predicting the future in a given area, and you're pretty specialized in this particular area. So In the Breaking Dawn, your new book, folks can go get that at Amazon?
Yeah.
So they can go to shop.freetalklive.com to buy that at Amazon. And it's real. Let's see, so it's right here. Rosenberg has crafted a page-turning story around scenarios that are upon us right now. Characters that are us, are your friends, your children. The journey of these characters is your journey as we try to make sense of the world we're thrust into. It's economics, technology, theology, philosophy, social activism, and during do. So tell me, what's the future in these areas?
That's a small little question.
Well, you wrote a book about it.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'll tell you. First is the thing we were talking about before, these big data systems combined with mass surveillance. It is really going to be, it is a real serious threat. Think of the worst of Orwell and Huxley combined. But what happens in the book, and what I think is very likely to happen in the real world, is that whenever the economic system really falls apart, It's on the edge of it now. When exactly it will, who knows? I can't see behind the closed doors. I don't know what happens in the back rooms. But once that happens, they're going to have to pull back. The governments, they have overloaded pension funds. They have more obligation than is possible to meet, so on and so forth. Well, they're going to have to pull back to their core areas and cut loose the more remote, rural, and suburban areas, simply because they can't afford it. And this, of course, is what happened in the Roman Empire. It's what happens historically. And I think they're going to have to do it. And the funny thing was, as I was charting that out one day, not too long ago, all of a sudden a story popped up on my screen in front of me that they were putting in a superconducting cable in downtown Chicago. Why? So that if they need power to the city, they can bring it all straight there and cut off the surrounding areas. So they're already working on this kind of thing. So I think that's what's going to happen, and we'll get something of the world of the Firefly series, the great Firefly series, I might add, where you had these core cities that were shiny and pretty and feds in every corner, and then you had the rustic areas around. And I think that's kind of a division that we're looking at right now.
So, it just seems so unlikely that they would be, leaving us country folks alone. Would we be losing things like power, internet connectivity, these sorts of things? Or, how lawless is this lawless land, Paul?
Well, it's as lawless as the people there want to be, I suppose.
Oh, well, the law's pretty firmly entrenched in my town. If you try to do a burglary there, you're going to end up perforated.
In most places, most people in most cases are pretty decent. They have their ups, they have their downs, but most people are pretty decent most days. You don't walk outside in front of your house and see, 10 fist fights going on your street. The people who go to restaurants, they pay for their meals before they leave. So it's not going to be really very bad in those sorts of things, but what costs central governments, whatever is expensive for them, they're going to have to cut back on. And rather than reorganizing in some less insane sort of way, I think they're going to cut off the outer areas, whatever costs them most, and consolidate in the centers.
Well, I hope they'll cut New Hampshire off completely.
Hey, just so you guys know, Keene features in the new book, in the Breaking Dawn.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
You made a friend for life with Ian. It's the Breaking Dawn. It's available at Amazon. Paul Rosenberg. Paul, where can people find this, and what can they expect when they get the book?
Well, it's a really interesting story. It begins with the breakdown, and it goes to places I won't even begin to describe. But they have in the promotional copy, it goes farther than you've ever imagined, and believe me, that's true.
Cool. Hey, Paul, thanks for coming on Free Talk Live here tonight. That's Paul Rosenberg, author of The Breaking Dawn, a cypherpunk.
Hope to see you at the next Bitcoin conference, Paul.
Thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks.
Definitely appreciate it. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Coming up, a blow to interior checkpoints has been dealt by a U.S. District Court. We'll talk about it. It's Free Talk Live.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size. For incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency, get to GoBerkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com.
No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market, making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
This is your Robertson Roberts Brokerage Daily Precious Metals Update. On Friday, gold is down $8 at $1,226 per ounce. Silver is 25 cents lower at $14.95 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at $424 US. It's the end of the week, and we're seeing a slight sell-off in gold and silver. To take advantage of this, give us a call at 800-874-9760 or online at rrbi.co.
Did you know that you can listen to and watch Free Talk Live during our live show 7 days a week from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern via our studio cam at cam.freetalklive.com? Not only that, but you can also chat with other listeners at the same time. Do I need to mention that both the studio cam and chat room are totally free? Outside of Free Talk Live's live hours, you won't see a cam feed, but will hear audio from the Liberty Radio Network. So listen, watch, and chat all free at cam.freetalklive.com. That's cam.freetalklive.com.
If you're David, a few well-chosen words can help level the playing field with Goliath. I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com. Recently, I saw a Yellow Pages ad for an appliance repair company, and the headline read, "Why wait for Sears?" If you're going to the Yellow Pages, the Dead Sea Scrolls of advertising, you're ready to buy right now. So this is an attention-grabbing message. And how about the plumber whose radio ad says, "Call by noon Thursday, and we'll be there Saturday at no extra cost"? Smart guy. Most plumbing firms give their crew the weekend off. This one gives them Sunday and Monday off. In the words of a respected advertising executive, cut to the chase, make it quick, and tell me exactly what you can do for me, especially if you're looking for work. For more tips on critical communication skills for the way things are now, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
This is Free Talk Live. It's the live Sunday edition of the program. You can join us here toll-free at 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Mark.
And Mark, you got some accolades from Terry from Checkpoint USA. Longtime listeners of the show may recall we've had Terry Bressi on a number of times. He's the guy who created Checkpoint USA, which I presume is still online. I haven't been by there in a little while myself. But Terry he was kind of the first guy who made headlines, at least in my recollection. Maybe there was someone who beat him to it, but at least as far as what we've been reporting on over the years, Terry was the guy who started doing these checkpoint refusal videos at the internal checkpoints, I believe in Arizona. I believe he works at a university and has to actually drive through the same internal checkpoint every single day more than once because he's going to work and then coming back from work. And he just got so tired of having his rights violated by
CheckpointUSA.org.
Thank you, CheckpointUSA.org. Is there a new fresh post up there? Is he still putting fresh content up?
It looks kind of, I don't know.
Well, anyway, he's still paying attention because he sent you an email this weekend saying basically thanks for the video that you posted, Mark, that you made a video when you were on vacation with your family this year. You went down south. You traveled around. Actually went, I think, all the way from Florida to the West Coast. in various different places in Arizona and places like that. And
So this is a 7,000-mile trip across the southern United States, and we ran across 4 different interior checkpoints. I am not talking about crossing the border into or out of the United States. We did that one time. We drove out of the United States into Mexico and, drove in Mexico for a little while and then came back to the United States. And, it was a pretty eventless bit. I mean, obviously, there are border checkpoints there, and you expect those. I'm concerned about roving checkpoints inside the United States where they take a dog and circle my car.
That happened.
Yeah. So I want to know how a dog circling a Toyota Prius is going to determine if the person, if the 3 people in the car are illegal aliens.
Well, you could have someone in the trunk.
It's a hatchback. And there was, luggage.
Could you store someone in the hatchback?
Okay.
Like in the
Let's say I've got
area.
somebody in the trunk. How's the dog going to react to that?
It's going to supposedly point out that there's someone in the car.
What if I've got laundry in there? Isn't it going to smell of a person?
That's a good question.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Well,
what makes a hell of a lot more sense is this is a stinking drug dog and that this is a damn lie.
Well, we know there are a lot of false positives when it comes to drug dogs.
Well, the dog can't figure out whether there are 3 people or 4 people in the car, right?
Probably not.
And if it could figure that out, it can't communicate to the government agent that it's at the end of the other end of the leash.
The
it's
dog's
not
sense
tapping
of
its
smell
foot.
is very good. But yeah, you're right. So while a dog may be able to discern whether a 4th person was in the car, it would not be able to communicate that effectively to its handler.
That's correct. Yeah. And so to me, these checkpoints are a ruse for just finding out whatever it might be that you're doing illegally. So that's what disturbs me here. Not whether, because I mean, it's pretty obvious that me and my family, my family and I can roll through one of these without too much trouble. Right?
You did that about 4 times, and then you
3 times.
3 times.
Well, so the first time it happened, my wife just answered their question. I'm like, that's kind of what they're doing there is debatably unconstitutional. Now there is a ruling, I believe it's called Martina Fuertes versus the United States or something like that, that basically says that they can do these checkpoints. It doesn't say that you have to answer their questions.
That's right.
And
they would like you to, though.
I would point out that in Plessy versus Ferguson, they said that separate was equal when talking about, schools and that sort of thing for black people and white people, drinking fountains and restrooms. And then they changed their mind with Topeka versus Brown versus Topeka Board of Education. Mm-hmm. So the Supreme Court can rule one way and then change their mind. So I can have an opinion as to whether something is unconstitutional in that particular area. And the only way we're ever going to find out is if people stand up and do something about it.
That's right. And that's what you did. You made a video of your family passing through one of these checkpoints, and ultimately you didn't get arrested. Nobody got hurt, thankfully.
I've been berated
You didn't
online.
answer the question. You did not answer
I refused to answer any questions. I said that they can direct all their questions to my attorney. And I'm not answering questions today. They didn't bother. But I've been berated online to the point where people were calling for my child to be taken away and put in government hands. I mean,
on YouTube comments?
Yeah,
or whatever?
Sick lunatics saying that somehow because I refused to answer the question of literally jackbooted thugs. I mean, these people actually had on jackboots, answer their questions, that somehow I am, I don't know, spitting on the flag and hate this country and want illegal aliens to rape children.
I mean, you obviously hate the government. I mean, if you were a good government-loving American, you would do what you're told. You would answer the questions.
Like George Washington? Like Thomas Jefferson? Like the people who picked up arms against their government and said no more? The ones that founded this nation? If there's a nation on earth where we stand up to our government and say no, that should be this one. And that the sniveling little banana republic wanting dictators out there, those are the ones that should leave.
That's the way things used to be, Mark. But now things are different in America. Security is freedom.
Security is freedom. Yeah. That's how things are in 1984.
Obedience.
The book
is freedom.
Yeah, obedience is freedom. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Didn't Rudy Giuliani say something like that at one point? The couple presidential terms ago.
Yeah, that's the thought process here. And a little bit of digging from most of the people that took some time to send me hate-filled IMs on Facebook was, oh, turns out it's a cop. Oh, turns out it's a cop. I mean, almost over and over, you go to visit their page and there's a thin blue line.
Or the wife of a cop.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Right? I'm an a-hole? I'll tell you what, I'm one of the people that is taxed to pay for your paycheck. You're the a-hole for sending me a message like that.
So here's the actual quote. This is from Rudy Giuliani back in the 1990s. Quote, "We look upon authority too often and focus over and over again for 30 or 40 or 50 years as if there's something wrong with authority. We see only the oppressive side of authority. Maybe it comes out of our history and our background. What we don't see is that freedom is not a concept in which people can do anything they want, be anything they can be. Freedom is about authority. Freedom is about the willingness of every single human being to cede to lawful authority. A great deal of discretion about what you can do."
That is nuts. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
This was the 90s.
What Nazi wrote that for him?
Well, okay, I guess you could say that someone else wrote it and then he just read it.
It's the most authoritarian thing that you can possibly say. Freedom stems from government authority?
That's what he's saying, that freedom is about the willingness of every single human being to cede to lawful authority. A great deal of discretion, meaning, you give some other group of people who are also people just like you the ability to decide for you and your life. That's freedom.
In the Empire of the Mongols, the most murderous group of people in world history, it was said that a young maiden could carry a basket full of gold on her head from one side of the empire to the other, that things were that safe. Now, I'm not saying I'm all for crime, but if the cost of safety is 100 million deaths by the sword, then that's a pretty high cost.
Our toll-free number, should you want to join us to talk about freedom and authority, which I don't believe the two can really coexist. But you can join us here at 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. So we'll talk more about what happened here with this district court. The news coming out of El Paso, Mark, which is actually very nearby where you were harassed at one of these internal checkpoints. We'll give you more details about that on the way. You can also join us here toll-free at 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Is freedom about authority? Do you agree with Rudy Giuliani in that particular case? We'd love to hear from you as well. Or join us via Skype at Skype username LRN.FM. It's Free Talk Live.
All right, listen up, because this is the most important thing you're going to hear all day. What if I said you could make money flipping houses without any cash, credit, or manual labor? And what if I said you could do it part-time from the comfort of your home? Sound unflippin' believable? Hi, I'm Preston Ely, and I'm going to prove it by sending you a free copy of my smash hit-selling book, How to Get Rich in Real Estate. It sells online for $19.95, but I'm giving away 5,000 free copies this week. To get one before they're gone, call 1-800-961-8439. I used to be so broke, I had my electricity shut off 9 times, but I figured out a simple way to make money flipping houses without even breaking a sweat. Now I'm living the good life, and so should you. Listen, if you're sick and tired of stressing about money, this book could change your life. Hands down, it's the fastest, easiest way to get started in real estate. Let me prove it. Call right now to find out how to get your free book. When they're gone, they're gone. Call 1-800-961-8439. 1-800-961-8439.
It's about time something new came along for better selling and buying online. And I found it.
What now, Marge?
It's buysellmakeoffer.com.
Never heard of it.
It's a brand new company. That's why you've never heard of it. It's the newest and best way to sell any products online. I did all the research.
Sell my car?
Yes.
Our home?
Yep.
My golf bag?
Your golf clubs. All of them.
How about your purse collection hoard?
Hey, now.
You said any product.
Right. I did. We get 30 days free.
Really?
Packages starting from only $7.95. And buysellmakeoffer.com will never charge item fees, ever. Never. And this is cool. Listen to this. You can even use Skype or video to show your items.
That's cool.
Yes. All we have to do is go to the website, sign up, and then load our stuff to sell. I love this site.
BuySellMakeOffer.com.
BuySellMakeOffer.com. You got it?
BuySellMakeOffer.com.
BuySellMakeOffer.com. Better selling, better buying.
Free Talk Live, the show where anyone can call about whatever they want. And we do mean anyone.
World fasts for peace.
I don't understand what she said.
If the whole world fasted like Gandhi, we would see great results for this struggle to survive world order.
There's never going to be any peace. You sound like you're on drugs there. It sounds like you're a flower child. You're pumped up on drugs.
Any woman who doesn't agree with you is on drugs or something.
I may be a racist and anti-Semite, but I have all my faculties.
Well, racism and sexism are one.
You're one of those love mankind, love thy neighbor.
And I am too, and thank you both for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. That is the one thing I can certainly agree with the lady on. Normally I can't understand a word that she says, but I think Scott, the bigot, did interpret her correctly, and that she is interested in peace, and I like that.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
LRN.FM is proud to announce our official listening apps for Android and iOS devices. Now you can easily tune into our streams anywhere, anytime on your smartphone or tablet. Just visit apps.lrn.fm or search for LRN.FM in the Android or Apple app stores. Please download, rate us 5 stars, then share the link on your social media and let your friends and family know how you're listening to LRN.FM. Download it now, free at apps.lrn.fm.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can join us here toll-free. Live Sunday edition continuing. The number's 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733.
I have been taking Super Beats, and I couldn't be happier with this product. What it is it's it's all the good things from beets. If you've been paying attention, beets are high in nitric oxide. Nitric oxide has been shown. I guess a team got the Nobel Prize in 1998 for their research in nitric oxide and what it does for heart health. One of the guys from that team put together Super Beets, and they're grown all in one farm in California, so they can keep a good eye on them. And they do not only do they give you a little energy boost in a way that is so much better than things like coffee and stuff like that. Those are like stimulants, and nothing good about that. But I can't take stimulants, but I can take Super Beets. I think you should try it out, especially if you're over the age of 40, because the fact is, if you live long enough, you're going to have cardiovascular issues. So check them out. Do the reading. Go to ftlbeats.com and check out Super Beets. And if you don't feel the results, you don't pay, guaranteed. You get a 30-day supply free with your first order. You also get the nitric oxide indicator strips to prove it's working to you. Plus, you get a free book, Beat the Odds, and all of it comes with free shipping. You really can't go wrong with this deal. Call 800-951-8940, ftlbeats.com, 800-951-8940, ftlbeats.com.
Let's go to the phones to the fun and talk first to Nick in South Carolina, listening to WTMA in Charleston. Hey, Nick.
Hey, how are you guys doing tonight?
Great. Go ahead with your thoughts.
All right, so going back to the freedom versus authority, I guess, dichotomy, it's kind of strange thinking about freedoms as, like, my rights to do things. So my freedoms end where your freedoms begin is how I've always been taught.
That's a good rule of thumb, I think.
Yeah, so as long as whatever I'm doing doesn't affect you, or just affect you in a negative way, I guess, it's okay.
Well, that's a pretty general statement, and I'd be careful about that one because, for instance,
somebody might say me walking through their neighborhood brings down the property values.
Right, or they don't like the way that I look, they don't like the kind of clothes I'm wearing or whatever, that hurts them, in their mind. Ultimately, I think that the effect has to be more tangible, like that you can't physically harm, like to physically injure another human being or to defraud that person. I think those are the two things that generally should be not okay.
Yeah, and that's part of it is like obviously we have to be reasonable about certain things. Like we can't our freedom of speech. I know that some of the things that people are capable of saying are very hurtful to other people, and that's something that we protect in this country. Is I can go to a Trump rally, or I can go to a Hillary rally, or I can go to any other rally that I want to, as long as I'm not physically harming people in a way that the government has deemed to not be okay. Everything should be hunky-dory, fine to go to those kind of rallies. But I think that's where the authority part of it comes in, is that we have to have kind of an agreed upon, we have to have an agreed upon stopping point for where everyone's kind of rights end if we want to coexist within the same rule set.
Yeah, but the authorities don't care about what you think. They just kind of do their own thing and force it upon you. It's not like the majority or any amount of people decided that internal checkpoints would be a good idea. That's just something they cram down our throats. Not that I'm saying it would be okay if a majority wanted it. I don't support majority rule on things. I support rights.
Well, majority to some extent is how all human interaction is governed. I mean, it may not be a strict majority, as in 50% plus one, but it is, if enough people think that the way things should be that way, then
they'll be that way.
They will be that way.
Like people paying for a meal before they leave. The restaurant, it was mentioned earlier by.
But what's interesting about the government and the state as an organization is that it declares itself exempt from the rules. So if I go around trying to procure money from people by demanding it, and if they don't get it, give it to me, I pull out a gun and point it at them, I'm called a robber. However, if the government sends you a notification that you owe them money, at some point they will send a man with a gun to get the money from you or get you. And they are not deemed a robber. I mean, they are so successful in their marketing campaign for the last 9,000 years that it would be absolute utter chaos without them, that they are completely exempt, and we don't even use the same term. We use the term taxation to describe their theft.
Yeah, and doesn't that harken back to the original social contract of that's kind of what we established? I believe it was the Magna Carta was the first form of social contract.
Social contract is BS. There is no such thing as a social contract. That's just a concept.
Well, the Magna Carta is a real contract. I mean, it's a real document.
I didn't sign the Magna Carta.
Agreed,
and I
you didn't sign it, and it had nothing to do with you because it was for nobles only. The Constitution is a document signed by a few dozen guys, right? They're all dead. Yeah. And the idea is that document bound you, but you didn't ever exchange value for that document.
Yeah, I can't contract. Someone else cannot contract without my authorization. They cannot contract for me without me explicitly giving them agency.
And what would be really important in the area of the Constitution would be to point out that the government doesn't abide by it.
That's true.
They say, they say things like freedom of speech shall not be infringed. You have the right to keep and bear arms. They say these things, but then they put all kinds of rules on them. If they're not bound by the contract, how the hell are you?
Well, yeah, that's also true. But then again, I guess if you don't subscribe to the way that you're being bound to the contract, then I guess it doesn't really matter. Physically, there's no one on the street that controls my feet when I decide whether or not to go to the speed limit. I can break the speed limit or I can follow the speed limit, and there's no one that judges that except me. A cop may pull me over for speeding excessively or going excessively slow, but at the end of the day, it's me that makes that decision that I'm going to obey this particular law today. And it's kind of, I guess I'm kind of rambling a little bit in that regard, but at the same time, we all, by following the laws, implicitly agree to them, and that's
But most people don't follow the law that you just cited. I mean, most people speed. Most people do at least 5 miles an hour over whatever the posted speed limit is. So there's actually wide disdain for the law because the laws are arbitrary and they're capricious. They're made up by these bureaucrats.
And the speeding law has got to be the worst among them. It is a government make-work program for armed bureaucrats. If you wanted to stop people from speeding, you'd put up speed cameras, which never get a pension, never get a paid holiday, never get nothing, and you'd be spitting out tickets to any car going over the limit. Now, you know as well as I do, those limits are set artificially low so that they can pull you over for anything they want, sniff around in your car, find whatever they feel like finding, and do largely whatever they want. The cop pulls you over. They put flashing lights on the side of the road meant to distract people. I mean, that's the whole point of them, is to catch your attention. They force vehicles to pull over into the other lane in many states. There's laws regarding getting out of the way. So they create a hazard on the road. The people who work for the Department of Safety, that's the police department, actually make the roads less safe. If you wanted the roads to be more safe, there would be far better ways than giving pensioned police officers that work for 20 years and get paid incredible overtimes, in some places making in excess of $150,000 a year, including benefits. There'd be far better ways to do it than that.
So, Nick, I got to disagree with you here. I think the reason why that people are good generally is not because law exists and that people believe it's in their best interest to follow. Right, I think that people are just generally good towards one another because that's the best thing. It's the best mode of operating that humans can have, is to be good to others in the hopes that people will be good back to you and that we'll all get along for the most part. There are some outliers in this particular case. There are people who are bad to one another, and many of them have government positions.
Oh, yeah, and it's interesting that you pointed out speed cameras because originally I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and we actually a few years ago had this. It wasn't really a huge scandal, but the local government tried a new initiative where they put speed cameras on. It was every few miles on the interstate and on several street corners. And by and large, it didn't work. People still sped, and they threw out the tickets and said they never got them. And there was no way to enforce it.
Hey, Nick, thanks for the call, man. I do appreciate the conversation, and thanks for dialing in tonight. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE.
Oh, well, throw out the tickets. I mean, if you act like you never got a ticket, there's all kinds. The government hands all kinds of fines and these sorts of things out, and people don't get them all the time. The government doesn't seem to care in any other circumstance when you don't get a ticket.
The red light camera / speeding ticket camera things, they're challengeable because of some issues with due process, is my understanding. Now, I'm not an attorney. But, how do you face your accuser if it's a box?
Well, if it's a $200 ticket, it's not worth going and challenging it anyway. Most people will just pay it.
Well, most people are not. What changes
And it's supposed
things.
to be a deterrent.
The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, 855-450-3733.
As a pioneer of the e-commerce movement, Overstock.com is proud to be the first major retailer to accept Bitcoin. Overstock was the first because Patrick Byrne, Overstock's CEO and founder, firmly believes in personal freedom and cryptocurrency. Over the past 16 years, Overstock has furnished over 18 million homes with a diverse line of products to suit everyone's unique styles and preferences. Support Overstock and freedom of choice while enjoying free shipping on orders of 0.211 Bitcoin or more. There comes a time when you need custom embroidered or screen printed apparel for your business, organization, or a special event. Corporate Casuals has been helping people create great looking logoed apparel for over 25 years. They can produce a single piece or thousands using name brand apparel like Nike, Patagonia, Adidas, and Hanes. Create your logo in their online embroidery design studio or upload your existing logo and they'll turn it into embroidery. Go to corporatecasuals.com/FTL and include FTL in the order notes and save 5% on your order. Currency is too important a thing to be left in the hands of government bureaucrats, especially when billions of dollars can be created with the swipe of a pen. Overstock.com supports the cryptocurrency movement because it returns the power of an inflation-proof money to the people where it belongs. Did you know that you can use Bitcoin to pay for anything Overstock.com sells while enjoying free shipping on orders of 0.211 Bitcoin or more? If you support freedom in the cryptocurrency movement, you should support Overstock.com. The three most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1, share one episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2, buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3, give $5 a month to the AMP program. You likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer. You can get what you need at the same prices with free Super Saver shipping by going to shop.freetalklive.com. Please do your online shopping at shop.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Temporarily from the Gulf Coast in Biloxi, Mississippi, this is Darrell W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Sunday, February 28th, 2016. Silver is trading at $14.70 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,223 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $431. Antiwar.com reports as the Syrian ceasefire took effect, Turkey reiterated its serious concern about the plan after insisting in the last few days that they believe the ceasefire benefited the Russians and that they don't intend to be bound by the ceasefire themselves. The big objection by Turkey, though, as with everything even tangentially related to Syria, is the inclusion of the Kurdish YPG in the ceasefire, saying that if the U.S. and Russia want to exclude the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, they must also include the Kurds. The ceasefire went into effect midnight on Saturday Syrian time and has held so far, though the ceasefire explicitly excludes both the Islamic State and the Neutral Front. There have not been reports of any major happenings in their territory since then either, nor has Turkey attacked the Kurds in Syria so far since. The YPG, like most of the groups that endorse the ceasefire, say it reserves the right to respond if attacked. In either case, the most likely row would be with Turkey, as the Islamic State is not a party to the ceasefire and is their primary other opponent.
Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com.
UPI reports an executive and 2 companies pled guilty in federal court on Friday to marketing packages of cheese containing unacceptable amounts of wood pulp as 100% real Parmesan and Romano cheese. Castle Cheese Company executive Michelle Murter pled guilty to a misdemeanor of aiding and abetting to introduce misbranded and adulterated cheese products to interstate commerce. 2 other companies, Universal Cheese and Drying Incorporated and International Packaging LLC, also pled guilty to conspiring to introduce misbranded cheese and money laundering. Each corporation faces a fine of $500,000. Murter can face a 1-year sentence in prison, a $100,000 fine, or both, depending on the seriousness of the offense and her past legal history. U.S. Attorney David J. Hickton said the Department of Justice prosecutes people and companies who introduce adulterated or misbranded food into interstate commerce. In this case, the fraud was perpetrated on consumers who purchased Parmesan and Romano cheese that were inferior to what they believed they were buying. A 2013 Food and Drug Administration report found that items labeled as 100% real Parmesan and Romano cheese distributed through the companies to various stores contained a combination of Swiss, mozzarella, and white cheddar cheeses, as well as wood pulp. The cheeses labeled as 100% real Parmesan and Romano cheese did not meet the FDA standard for such products and contained more than the permitted amount of cellulose, which derived from wood pulp, was used as filler. The mislabeled packages did not pose any health or safety threats to consumers, but they were sold under several brand names, which had no knowledge of the fraud.
For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co.
Reuters reports Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton crushed rival Bernie Sanders at the South Carolina primary on Saturday, propelling her into next week's crucial Super Tuesday voting in 11 states on a wave of momentum. The rout of Sanders solidified Clinton's status as the strong frontrunner to capture the party's nomination for the November 8th election in her quest to become America's first female president. After the win, Clinton appeared to be looking ahead to a general election matchup with Republican frontrunner Donald Trump. The result in South Carolina was Clinton's third victory in the first 4 Democratic contests. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
In what medical authorities are calling one of the worst ointment complications in White Plains Hospital's history, area girlfriend Caroline Nagler was rushed to the ER this week after suffering an extreme overdose of scented lotion. With a blood lotion level of 0.45, hospital sources confirmed that Nagler had rubbed onto her body 4 times the lethal limit of shea butter, green tea cleanses, and naturally soothing mineral therapies.
Even putting aside the sheer level of lotion Miss Nagler had on her person when she arrived at the ER, this was an especially lethal combination she was using. She was mixing scented moisturizers, age-defying serums, and even some harder stuff like jojoba and essential fruit extracts. Frankly, she's lucky to be alive.
In other news, Beijing's air solidifies. A Delta Airlines counteragent assures a man he will never see his family again. And a mannequin must think he's some pretty hot. They say if you love something, let it go. But how could we possibly leave you behind after being blessed with a relationship as unique and complex as this one? For more, keep checking theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, and it is the live Sunday edition of the program. You can join us here toll-free at 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. With you in studio, you've got Ian.
And Mark.
For those of you just tuning in, we've talked about checkpoints, the internal checkpoints, as well as this ridiculous idea that some people in government believe that freedom is authority. At least that's what Rudy Giuliani said, apparently back in the 1990s. And for whatever reason, it kind of came back up in the aughts, because I remember we talked about it probably in the 07, 08 range. That's when
Ron Paul was running the first time, and he was
and
up
Giuliani ran against him.
And Giuliani just couldn't stand sharing the stage with Ron Paul. I mean, he wanted to turn his guns on the lowest ranked Republican on the stage, because just the notion of what Ron Paul said was destroying the foundations of what Giuliani believed.
Well, right. I mean, Ron Paul is very anti-authority, and that is essentially the libertarian message, is that no human should have the ability to tell you how to live your life. Unless you want to hire someone as a consultant. If I hire you to come in and tell me how to live my life, then it's fine.
I was a personal trainer, and I can tell you, to some extent, my job was telling people how to live their lives.
That's what they wanted from
you.
They wanted
they wanted a telephone call to tell them to get to the gym, and what time their workout was going to be. They wanted somebody to tell them what to do, how to do it, and encourage them when they didn't feel like doing it.
And there are people out there who do love authority. Besides the ones who love to wield it, there are people who do want to be put in their place, so to speak. Dogs are that way, for instance, and some human beings are that way, and those people should be free to have that. If you want someone to tell you how to live, by all means, there are people who are more than happy to do that for you. But for the rest of us who would prefer to figure it out on our own or hire whatever experts we need to at whatever times we want, leave us alone, you authority types, and we'll leave you alone. Now, I can't promise for everyone, but that's, I think, what most liberty-minded folks would agree to is, hey, you government guys, you can do your thing, just don't mess with us and don't mess with our friends, and please just don't mess with anyone in general who doesn't want to be messed with, and then we'll leave you alone. That's fine. Let's have that deal.
What I discovered along my path through libertarianism. This is one of the things that I discovered is that it's a threat to people when you say, well, let's just get rid of the federal government or whatever.
Yeah, it's a threat to everyone collecting a paycheck from the federal government.
Right. A lot of pensioners out there, a lot of people who make
contractors.
They say that 50% of the population, if you include contractors and the families of people that work for the government and everything in there, 50% of the people make their money from the government.
And that doesn't include welfare, or does?
I assume that welfare is included in that number. I don't know the specific numbers, and you can do the research on that, but I can see why it's a threat to people. So I advocate for libertarians all to move to one state, New Hampshire.
Yes.
But there's even people in New Hampshire that feel threatened when I say that I don't want this law or that law. I asked that, I filed as we filed as a official religion in the state of New Hampshire. I then asked that my house be exempted from the tax rolls in my town, and the town rejected that. Now, at that point, I am not putting anyone else at risk, right? I'm not saying that you can't have your government. At that point, the government is turning its gun towards me, and it's saying, nope, you're going to have to pay. Not you, your kid, because you're going to take the money. We're going to take money from you for the schooling of your child, and we're going to give it to other people's kids because they go to our school, and you're going to pay for our school, even though you consider it a government welfare, middle-class indoctrination day prison.
Well, you are the threat, Mark, and they're treating you as such. Anyone who could possibly
At that point, they've become the threat.
No,
I'm
but
a
what
threat
I'm saying is
because they're slave masters.
Right. You're a threat to them. You're a threat to their authority. You're a threat to their control over other people. Because if they were to allow you to not pay taxes, then that would mean that, from their perspective, the Pandora's box has opened.
But there's already parsonages out there that aren't paying taxes. That's a ludicrous notion.
But those are
the idea that somebody from a new religion,
recognized
religion can get out of taxes and somebody from a newly established religion can't, that's a pretty tenuous argument that Western civilization is going to crumble if we let you opt out of simply paying for stinking, crappy, mediocre schools.
No doubt. And they've said the same thing in various different trials of activists, like Ademo Freeman when he was on the wiretapping charges or facing wiretapping charges for recording some government bureaucrats over the phone when he was having a conversation with them. They made the argument that if the jury were to find him not guilty, it literally would be the end of Western civilization.
Even though what he did is legal in 38 states or something like that.
That's correct. And the reason they said that wasn't because it was legal in those other states, but because their authority would be undermined. That if a jury came in there and said, well, okay, yeah, it appears that by the letter of the law that he did indeed conduct wiretapping by recording this conversation without notifying and getting consent from all the parties in the state of New Hampshire. However, we, the jury, believe that that's a ridiculous law and so therefore not guilty. That's not what happened, sadly. The jury did convict him, but ultimately had the jury done the right thing and let him go, then the state would see that as a blow directly to the core of what it is. And the core of the state is authority, the idea that these people, who are just people, can rule over your life, and that they should be able to just simply tell you, jurors, that you need to follow the law. Here are the words that we, the state, have written down on these pieces of paper. We have, signed them with all kinds of fancy pens, and we're wearing fancy hats, and we say you must do as these words say. But if people decide that they should follow their conscience instead, the state sees that as like, a turning point kind of moment for them. Now, whether or not it would be is, I think, arguable. I think that it's not really a turning point moment. It's just one of a myriad of court cases that most people won't pay attention to and will ignore. But from the state's perspective, that disobedience, that willingness for the average person, which is what a jury is supposed to be made up of, that willingness for an average person to buck the system and embrace their own conscience is a danger to them. And that's why they made the arguments that they have done and will continue to make. They didn't just make it in the Ademo case. I believe they made it in the Occupiers case as well in Manchester.
In Manchester, yeah.
Same courtroom, different
The idea
prosecutor.
that if the police simply let people that they had ordered to leave a park
after 11 o'clock at night.
11 o'clock at night.
City ordinance says you can't
that
do
essentially... I mean, lawlessness will break out. People will be, at that point, once the word of a police officer is broken, then
there's rapings all over the place.
People are going to break into your house and eat your dog.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where it's all going to go right there immediately.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
So anyway, this is the threat that the state feels from those of us who are liberty-minded folks. That's why they punish people who are disobedient much stronger than they'll punish people who, actually are hurting others or putting others in jeopardy. The guy I was in jail with for a year was there for driving to work. The guys who were there for DUI were there for 3 days and 21 days, respectively. So the DUIs didn't hurt anyone, but they could have. There's a greater chance that a drunkard behind the wheel is going to hurt someone than someone just driving to work. Greater chance.
Sure.
I think most people would agree with that.
Didn't the guy lose his license for DUI, though?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was an unpaid fine out of Massachusetts from back in the 1990s.
Jeez.
And so, yeah, they gave him this habitual offender status, which is one of the most draconian measures that New Hampshire has, which results if you get convicted again as a habitual offender, you go to prison sometimes. So you go to jail in some instances. Sometimes, if you get more than a year, you'll go to prison for driving. And that's another example of how it's all about the authority. Same thing with me going to jail for standing in front of a police car back in 2010 with several activists. We stood in front of that police car to protest the state, to protest the fact that they were arresting a young lady for having an open container of alcohol in a public park, and that, you know, we didn't think that that should go on. We don't think people should be harassed and arrested for those kinds of things. So we made a protest about that, and we spent time in, you know, I spent time in jail. I spent nearly 2 months of my life, 58 days behind bars. For our friend Sam Dodson. So again, I didn't hurt anybody, but there were people in there for violence who were, you know, in for less time than I was. And another one, Sam Dodson, former co-host of the show. He went to jail for 58 days. Why? He didn't tell a judge his name. So the judge held him in contempt of court. And the idea was, well, we'll let you out when you tell us your name.
Right.
And so even though 2 weeks into it, they had already determined his name. Well, presumably at the beginning they didn't. But 2 weeks in, they did know his name. Absolutely, we were able to verify that they knew his name based on court documents and police reports. But they still kept him in there because he wouldn't say it. Kept him in for 58 days.
February is National Heart Month, and chances are you have a cardiovascular issue like I do. I help maintain my healthy heart by drinking Super Beets. It's a superfood powder that I mix with water, but you can mix it with yogurt or put it in a smoothie, whatever you want. Not only does it help boost my circulation and support my healthy blood pressure naturally, but I feel the energy and stamina boost in about 20 minutes, which no other superfood formula guarantees. All the beets from Super Beets come from one non-GMO farm in California, so they can keep a close eye on the production of the dietary nitrates. I want you to try this product for National Heart Month. And if you don't feel the results, you don't pay, guaranteed. Get a 30-day supply free with your first order. You also get nitric oxide indicator strips so that you can see it's working. Plus, get the free book, Beat the Odds. And all of this comes with free shipping. Call 800-951-8940 or visit FTLBeats.com. I believe in Super Beets. 800-951-8940, FTLBeats.com.
You're fired. According to the Small Business Administration, 75% of small businesses plan to eliminate jobs or reduce workers' hours to part-time. You're fired. According to Gallup, the unemployment rate recently jumped to nearly 9%, and the underemployment rate hit a staggering 17.9%. You're fired. 1 out of 3 young adults and 1 out of 2 recent college graduates are underemployed. Hello, I'm Keith Abel, a pharmacist and a home business entrepreneur. In 2011, I became one of those statistics myself. Instead of looking for another job in corporate America, I joined Dr. Joel Wallach, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie guy. We're creating steady incomes for ourselves and would like to show you how to do the same. If you want to supplement your current income, replace your income, so you don't have to become one of the statistics, then give me a call toll-free at 866-257-3105, 866-257-3105. You're fired. Don't wait till you hear those words. Start creating an extra income today. 866-257-3105.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com. You can get emailed announcements and participate in contests via our email updates list. Plus, we have a Twitter account that you can follow and a Facebook page where you can become a fan. So visit news.freetalklive.com to get news about Free Talk Live as soon as it's announced and the way you want it delivered at news.freetalklive.com. That's news.freetalklive.com.
Have you felt different almost your entire life? Like the way things are run never made any sense? They've tried to get you to believe that you couldn't handle making all of your own decisions, that your lives had to be governed by a set of rules based on punishing everyone for the mistakes of a few. It's been a long journey, but the Free State Project has finally met its goal of 20,000 participants. Early movers have already accomplished so much, but we still need your help to show the world we can build a shining beacon of liberty. Stop making excuses and join us here in New Hampshire. Visit freestateproject.org.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. Join us on the radio waves here, toll free at 855-450-FREE. 855-450-3733. Joining you tonight, you've got Ian.
And Mark.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. Readers of freedomsphoenix.com are constantly provided the detailed real news that lies between the lines of propaganda and the relationship we have with coercive governments. freedomsphoenix.com has up-to-the-minute updates on the economy, technology, communications, and the rise of the police state. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. Get signed up for their free daily dispatch. That's freedomsphoenix.com. It should be an interesting day tomorrow, Mark. There's a couple of – it's one of those days here in New Hampshire where there are at least a couple of things I would like to be at simultaneously.
Sometimes that happens in the activism circles here, the liberty activism circles in New Hampshire.
Yeah, that never happened
because there's so many people.
Right, that never happened to me in Florida. There was never more than one thing going on in the liberty community that I wanted to do. In fact, I don't think there were ever two things scheduled simultaneously in Florida for that, for the liberty community. But here in New Hampshire, we do have the Free State Project, and that is a movement of what will hopefully be 20,000 people. We've got 20,000 signers. 20,000 people who love liberty, who care about freedom, who are willing to do something, pick up their lives and move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Now, it's working, and it's working well. This isn't some sort of pie-in-the-sky concept. This is proof of concept. It's happening. We have over 1,600 people who've already made the move early, as you and I did, Mark. The official move just began about 2-3 weeks ago. At this point, I guess close to 3 weeks ago now. And so we're in this final phase now of the Free State Project, of the actual moving time. Those who have pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active, it's time to pick up and move and get here. Now, all 20,000 aren't going to come. There's 20,000 people who've signed, but we've been collecting those signatures for 15 years. So I think it's realistic to believe that, maybe we'll get 30% or 20%, 25%, something. I'm hoping for 25%. Anything between 25 and 50 I'd consider icing on the cake. And I don't think it's realistic to believe we're going to get more than 10,000 out of the original 20,000.
In many cases, we've activated local activists, too. We've created and activated local people.
Which was part of the intention of the Free State Project.
There are, probably arguably 4,500 Free Staters in the state because people inside the state have signed up as friends of the Free State Project.
Which is another designation one can join as a friend of the Free State Project at freestateproject.org. You can also still sign up for the Free State Project, but apparently they're not incrementing the counter past 20,000, but they are now going to count the number of people who are moving to New Hampshire. So the Free State Project is continuing. And so as I was saying, not all 20,000 are going to show up. In fact, some have already come and gone. So they've moved to New Hampshire, they exerted their fullest practical effort, and then they decided their life was taking them in a different direction, and so they've left. And it can be sad, too, especially when we get to know and love them, like our friend Sam Dodson, who is coming back tomorrow. Not for good, I don't think, although I'm sure
I'll do my best to persuade him.
God, you are such a badger on these issues.
But you got to ask for the order, Mark, if you want people to do what you want them to do. Which is
I guess
come back to New Hampshire. But Sam was on our show for a number of years. I guess he was a regular co-host behind a microphone here.
He also did Obscured Truth, the Obscured Truth Network,
which is still on YouTube. So if you've never seen any of Sam's videos, just search for Obscured Truth on YouTube and you will find them. He was an early mover. I don't know when he showed up, maybe 08 or something like that.
I don't know. It's been some time.
I think he left in 2010 or early 2011, and he left. Well, let's just say things were unfinished when he left legally, because he was arrested along with me in what was called the drinking game episode.
So what the drinking game was is some people went into a city meeting with the intention of every time the bureaucrats said things like, what was it, master plan, and
that was one.
A variety of other words that sound sort of, like weirdly, super villain-esque. We have a master plan.
Yep. Everyone has a drink,
and then everybody has a drink. Now, in many cases, these drinks, I'm not entirely sure what was in all of these drinks, but in many cases they were like bottles that would have like a label on them, say not a beer, and they would be full of water or something like that.
Yes.
The idea was to test the boundaries, cause these people to perhaps, not take their little meeting quite so seriously.
Once again, this strikes at the core of the authority that the government has, and that's why they did not like what we were doing.
They could have ignored you completely.
That's right.
There would have the only publicity you would have gotten would have been the publicity that you created for yourself.
Correct, which was at that point a blog post on freekeen.com announcing in advance what our plans were. So we published the
these activists have said mean things about us on the internet.
Yeah.
We're going to have to get them.
The post that I believe Sam made actually in advance, I don't know, it was like a day or two. It wasn't long, in advance before the city council meeting. It even had the label that we had printed up and put on these what were beer bottles at one time. They did actually have beers in them, but we had emptied them out and put water into them, and then put these custom labels on that said not a beer. And that was part of the blog post, so they knew what was going on. Like, we outlined everything. The rules for the drinking game, that was posted in advance so people could play along at home, because you can watch the city council meetings on television. So if you wanted to actually use alcohol in your home, you could do that. You'd get pretty drunk, too, because it was every time the city council voted on something unanimously, which is almost every vote. It's almost always unanimous.
Oh, yeah, that's another good one, yeah.
So every single vote you'd be drinking, and then there was like 6 or 7 other rules. And so they actually ended up stopping the meeting 10 minutes in after they'd done some accolades.
Couple of swigs of water.
And we're drinking away on these bottles, and the city police chief comes up, the former police chief. He's no longer in charge. He was actually talking to me at that time. Now, after this incident was when he started giving me the silent treatment and treating me like a
because he
small
demanded
child.
your bottle and you didn't give it to him.
Correct. He actually not only did he demand the bottle, he actually reached out and tried to grab it from me, and I grabbed it closer to me at that point and sort of withheld it and pulled my body away from him as he was grabbing towards the bottle, and I told him, no, you don't get to search I don't consent. Yeah. To your search. And he told me, well, if you'll either consent or you'll leave this meeting. And I said, well, no, I'm not going to leave the meeting. It's a public meeting, and I'm intending to sit here and enjoy my beverage while I watch this public meeting. Well, you're under arrest for disorderly conduct. And so he arrested Sam and myself, and then also a girl named Monica.
He arrested me.
He arrested me.
Myself is just the self-aggrandizement that's popped up in the last 5 years or so. No, he didn't arrest myself. He arrested me.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Garrett likes to say myself, so it's kind of caught.
That's got to stop.
Yeah. So he arrested us, and then arrested a young lady who was there, also a Free Stater. Monica was there. She actually had a real beer with her. so hers was not water in a bottle, but Sam's and I, we did have just water in the bottle. And so we got processed, got released. I think we took bail. I don't remember what happened in that particular case. But ultimately, my charges were dropped a year later. I had to sit on bail conditions for an entire year, waiting trial. And then the day before trial, they dropped my charges. Thing is, though, Sam left town while he was expected to go to court for this, while he was, they had an arraignment date for him, and they had one for me too.
So
but
you
he
showed
wasn't
up
there.
and then they dropped the charges?
No. I went to the arraignment, and a year later, before the trial, they dropped the charges.
How far before the trial?
The day before.
Okay, so the day before. Why didn't they drop him on Sam the day before?
He had missed court, so there was a warrant out for his arrest.
Oh, he missed the arraignment.
So that's why he's coming back tomorrow in the morning for court versus Judge Burke, the same man that put him in jail for 58 days. It's Free Talk Live.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
Are you getting squeezed by the economic downturn? Hey, you were doing fine. Then, all of a sudden, you're having a tough time paying your family's credit card bills. Maybe you were downsized or even lost a job, but you still owe 10 grand or more in credit card bills, and you just can't afford the minimum payments anymore. We're here to help. We are the Genesis Debt Partners. We know the secrets to negotiate better terms with your creditors. Make a free 10-minute call right now and learn how we can help you get out of debt. 800-981-7590. If you owe 10 grand or more in credit card debt and you want to learn how you can pay less and get out of debt faster, call right now. 800-981-7590. 800-981-7590. Get out of debt now. 800-981-7590.
This is your Robertson Roberts Brokerage Daily Precious Metals Update. On Friday, gold is down $8 at $1,226 per ounce. Silver is 25 cents lower at $14.95 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at $424 US. It's the end of the week and we're seeing a slight sell-off in gold and silver. To take advantage of this, give us a call at 800-874-9760 or online at rrbi.co.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. facebook.freetalklive.com.
Looking for an excuse to come check out New Hampshire's liberty activism scene this fall? You're invited to Keenvention. Keenvention is your chance to meet dozens of key liberty activists from across the Shire. You can explore the beautiful little city of Keene, discuss various forms of activism with seasoned veterans, have fun at social events like the Hallow Keene Costume Dance Party, and learn about making the move. Keenvention received rave reviews last year. If you missed it, visit keenvention.info for full video coverage of every speaker and panel. Join old and new friends and neighbors in Keene for Keenvention this November 4th through November 6th. Tickets are available now for a special pre-order price of just $50 via credit card or Bitcoin. However, only 100 pre-order tickets are available, so reserve your tickets now at keenvention.info. Visit keenvention.info for more, or look for our page and event on Facebook. That's keenvention.info.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
This This is Free Talk Live. You're invited to join us here, toll-free, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. So I told you some interesting news, and that is that our friend Sam Dodson is going to be coming back for a limited engagement here in New Hampshire. He is, he's living a life with a family now. He's got a wife, he's got a kid down in Texas, which is where he's from originally. And whether they're considering moving back to New Hampshire, I don't know. We'll ask him those questions if we can get him on the radio with us, which I'm hoping to do tomorrow night if he's not in a jail cell, because he is going up against Judge Burke, the very same judge who put him in jail for 58 days when Sam refused to give his name, I don't know, back in 2008 or 2009.
I suspect you'll get asked that question straight away in front of Burke.
What do you mean? Which question?
What's your name? Got anything else you want to say before we get started?
It's going to be kind of a sad day in a lot of ways.
Sure, this is the whipping. This is the pillory.
Yeah.
And if he's either going to take his licks with a smile on his face, or he's going to get some more.
Now, he's going to be taking a plea deal, which I know a lot of people are going to be disappointed with. But again, it depends on where you are in life as to whether or not you can do these kind of things, of not take a plea deal or do take a plea deal. He
can't not take a plea deal in this circumstance, because it would, the cost to him would be extraordinarily high. He'd have to come live up here for
a period of time, and who knows how long it would be before they actually went to a trial.
The only people that are going to hold him as lacking in that area are going to be people that just want to see bad things for him.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean,
you mean there's some principled jackhole out there that's going to say you should never, ever, ever take a plea deal because it's bad?
I wouldn't say you should never take a plea deal, but for people who, for people for whom Sam was one of the first exposures they had to the Free State Project and civil disobedience, he was on the cusp, the cutting edge of civil disobedience here in Keene for a long time. There were actual protests when Sam was in jail back for 58 days. There was a large crowd of people that gathered for a candlelight vigil outside of the City Hall here in Keene in Central Square. We actually did protests at Judge Burke's house back then. And so it was a pretty intense time to be here. And Sam really set the bar high for non-cooperation with the state. And he, of course, was following in some giants' footsteps, like Lauren Canario, who I think is the only person besides Sam to take non-cooperation to a more extreme level, where she wouldn't even move with she wouldn't assist the police in any way. She was wheelchaired everywhere she went.
As a small woman, you're going to be better off than you are as a normal-sized. I mean, Sam's not a small guy.
No, he's a tall man.
He's tall and somewhat built, and so as a normal-sized guy, you're going to probably get roughed up.
Yes, exactly. Lauren can get away with a lot more than what some of us can. Yeah. But, for somebody who's sort of set the bar so high, it's going to be kind of a mixed feelings day for me. It's like it's going to be great to see Sam again. It's going to be fun to some extent to see what happens in court with him versus Judge Burke 5 years later, because both men have changed.
Yeah, Burke's more mellow now.
That's right. Burke is, I think, a little more mellow.
He's had plenty of time to deal with you people.
Right. So it's going to be an interesting day, and then just sort of that sad aspect of, well, Sam's going to go home. He's not staying in New Hampshire.
Sure.
And I love Sam, and I think he's a great guy, and I really enjoyed my time with him. So we're going to do our best to get him on the radio tomorrow night. If he's not in a jail cell, he hopefully will be joining us as a guest co-host here on Free Talk Live again. And now he may be going to jail, even though it is going to be a plea deal. And I believe he's pleading down to a violation. So it was charged originally as a misdemeanor offense. It's now being, I believe, plead to a violation.
Then why would he go to jail if he just got a ticket?
Well, because when you don't pay the fine, you go to jail.
So he's not going to pay the ticket?
He is not going to pay the ticket. So he has purchased a one-way ticket to New Hampshire. He's in New Hampshire now. And so he's basically here until this is settled.
Okay.
Which means that if he's sentenced to community service, he will be willing to do the community service. So he may be in town for a week or something like that as he logs enough community service hours to then go back to Judge Burke and turn in the community service hours. Now, whether or not they're going to schedule another hearing
quickly
and demand that, right, I suspect that a community service hearing will not be scheduled a week away from when he's sentenced, but I don't know. I mean, anything can happen at sentencing. Judge Burke, I don't think Burke can refuse the plea offer. I don't know. Because the judge could, like,
yeah,
what if
they
Burke,
can generally.
Yeah, like, what if Burke still's got to, stick up his butt over Sam? He hasn't let it, he hasn't mellowed out enough in the last 5 years, and he decides he wants to teach Sam a lesson for not coming to court because ultimately he is facing a failure to appear.
It doesn't seem like the Burke that I've seen
recently
throughout the years. Yeah. It just doesn't seem like him. He's not the. He looks at it so much like a job, and so to some extent he'll give you guys the paddling if you need the paddling, but he doesn't seem to hold it too close.
So it's what I say. It'll just be interesting to see how it all pans out tomorrow, and of course we'll bring it to you as we learn more over here on Free Talk Live. And so let's get back into the initial story, Mark, that we started the show with and just barely scraped the surface before we ended up talking about all the tangential issues of authority and internal checkpoints and your consent to the rule of governance, or the social contract, as some people would call it. El Paso, Texas. This is written by Brett Sanders, who I believe he himself was arrested over the weekend for open carry violation in Texas. But anyway, Brett Sanders writes at brettsanders.me, in early 2015, Michael Sofin of Florida was convicted of, quote, forcibly interfering, unquote, with a federal Border Patrol agent after casually driving away from an immigration checkpoint before he was officially free to leave.
Yeah, so this is interesting because the claim that they have is that they can briefly detain you while they determine your citizenship. But if you refuse to answer their questions, how are they ever going to determine your citizenship? Now, in my experience, basically the guy decided that we looked American enough for him.
No, it was that you specifically cited the Constitution and that you talked about your rights. And because you were willing to stand up for your rights, he believed that that was sufficient evidence to prove that you were an American citizen.
But while doing that, I had to speak, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't sound Canadian. I don't sound British. I don't sound Australian. The likelihood of me being from anywhere but the United States is pretty slim.
Okay.
And after he heard my wife speak, after I said, nope, she's not from the same place I am, because, she's from Chicago and I'm from Bradenton, Florida. And, then he's like, oh, yeah, that's good enough. So pretty much that was it. He said he paid lip service to the things I said, and obviously no Canadian's going to be able to talk about specific rulings and that sort of thing in the same way that an American would. They just wouldn't. Unlikely they would spend that amount of time learning U.S. law.
Some people don't talk as much as you did at the checkpoint, Mark. They just simply don't answer the question. Sure. They're waved through. So there's been a variety of different approaches, different styles. Many of them have resulted in success. In this case, this man was facing 8 months in federal prison. Now, this charge sounds like the charge, if you recall, remember the Malheur Federal Wildlife Refuge protesters who were charged with, weren't they charged with the same thing, interfering with a federal
I think so.
office? Now, they say here this was forcible interference, which I don't know if driving away is forcible.
Well, if there was if there was one of these Border Patrol agents in front of his car, he'd have killed him.
Facing 8 months in federal prison, Sofin promptly appealed to the U.S. District Court of El Paso, arguing that the government failed to provide sufficient evidence that the act of driving away was a forcible act. The court agreed with Sofin and overturned his conviction, which raises major questions as to whether or not interior immigration checkpoints have any legal footing in terms of enforcement. In October of 2014, Sofin was driving back to Florida by way of El Paso.
Right. So this is important, and I think it's Martinez Fuerte against versus U.S. The idea is that since the person was stopped, it was okay. The ruling was that their constitutional rights were not sufficiently violated
by asking.
But what if you
question?
Don't stop?
Hold that thought. We'll continue here. 855-450 free.
Are you suffering with hearing loss? Are you sick of people constantly complaining that your TV is too loud? Are you tired of asking people to speak up? Would you like to hear more clearly, but you don't want to wear a hearing aid that makes you look old? Then you need to try Listen Clear, a life-changing breakthrough precisely designed by top audio engineers to fit your ear almost invisibly. And you can adjust Listen Clear to find the perfect way to hear everything, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And right now you can try Listen Clear absolutely risk-free with free shipping. We'll even give you free batteries for life. So call now, 1-800-719-9349. Listen Clear is lightweight and completely hassle-free, and it's practically invisible. Call for your 100% risk-free home trial with free shipping and free batteries for life. For free information, call now, 1-800-719-9349. That's 1-800-719-9349. 1-800-719-9349.
It's about time something new came along for better selling and buying online. And I found it.
What now, Marge?
It's buysellmakeoffer.com.
Never heard of it.
It's a brand new company. That's why you've never heard of it. It's the newest and best way to sell any products online. I did all the research.
Sell my car?
Yes.
Our home?
Yep.
My golf bag?
Your golf clubs. All of them.
How about your purse collection hoard?
Hey, now.
You said any product.
Right. I did. We get 30 days free.
Really?
Packages starting from only $7.95. And buysellmakeoffer.com will never charge item fees, ever. Never. And this is cool. Listen to this. You can even use Skype or video to show your items.
That's cool.
Yes. All we have to do is go to the website, sign up, and then load our stuff to sell. I love this site.
Buysellmakeoffer.com.
Buysellmakeoffer.com. You got it?
Buysellmakeoffer.com.
Buysellmakeoffer.com. Better selling, better buying.
Free Press Publications is an independent, alternative media and publishing company founded in June 2009 with the mission of ensuring a free press for the freedom movement and is committed to spreading the message of peace, freedom, love, and liberty. FPP also gives new authors an avenue for publishing freedom-oriented material. FPP brings you daily news and commentary on the website fpp.cc, as well as a daily 5-minute newscast, FPP Radio News, and weekly news, views, and commentary in the FPP Freedom Minute and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio at fppradio.com, and the monthly newspaper FPP News at news.fpp.cc. Find FPP online at fpp.cc. That's fpp.cc, as in Creative Commons.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
Liberty activists around the country are starting to realize politics alone won't set us free. So what will? At Liberty on the Rocks, we believe the answer starts with living your principles, spreading ideas, and connecting with those around you. By starting a Liberty on the Rocks network, you can make a difference by uniting libertarian thinkers. Find out how much fun it is to build your local network from the ground up. Visit libertyontherocks.org today to get started.
You can watch the LRN Studio Cam and chat with other listeners anytime at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. We're talking about checkpoints and that a U.S. District Court has apparently dealt a blow to interior checkpoints, according to Brett Sanders at brettsanders.me. I believe he's one of the cop block activists or gun rights activists down in Texas who's following this story. We'll continue with that. I also want to let you know how to save big time on your purchases at Amazon. You're going to buy stuff anyway online, and you're probably going to buy it from Amazon because they've got great prices and a huge selection, great free Super Saver shipping deals, and, of course, Amazon Prime, which a lot of people love. So why would you not want to why would you want to pay more? Why would you want to pay the full price when you can save 20%? Easily by going to saveitpurse.com. You can save more than 20%. In fact, it's super easy to do. All you have to have is Bitcoin. That is the key here. That's what makes this possible. And to learn how, go to saveitpurse.com. I've done it more than 40 times in the last year. I'm a huge fan of what they're doing over there at Purse. Go to saveatpurse.com
to get started there. So there's a man named Michael Sofin who in 2015 was convicted of forcibly interfering with a federal Border Patrol agent. But ultimately, the U.S. District Court overturned that conviction, claiming that the government failed to provide sufficient evidence that the act of driving away from that checkpoint was a forcible act. The court agreed with Sofin's argument and then overturned his conviction. In October of 2014, he was driving back to Florida by way of El Paso, Texas, when he approached
that's what I was doing.
an immigration checkpoint nearly 20 miles north of the Mexican border.
And that's the one I was stopped at, likely, right?
With maybe, I don't know. With cameras rolling, Sofin recorded himself stopping at the checkpoint while declining to answer questions. Are you an American citizen? The Border Patrol agent asks, as you can see in the video, which we'll link to on our Facebook and Twitter. You can see that for yourself later. Sofin replied, quote, "You know, I was going to tell you that I wasn't going to take any questions today, and then I realized that, as a matter of fact, a girlfriend reminded me that if Obama is letting everybody in the country, what difference does it make?"
Well, I don't think that Obama's letting everybody in the country. But all right, I see where he's coming from. Fine.
The Border Patrol agent didn't find much humor in the ironic joke and told him that answering his arbitrary citizenship question, quote, "makes all the difference," unquote. So the agent repeated the question a couple of more times before Sofin responded, quote, "I don't want to answer any questions, okay? Thanks. Have a good night," unquote, as he can be seen driving away from the checkpoint at a normal rate of speed. The agent can be heard saying, "Hey, you're not free to go," then alerted his comrades of Sofin's early exit from the checkpoint, as additional agents can be seen getting into squad cars to make chase. Court documents revealed the border agents were traveling in excess of 130 miles per hour in order to catch up to Sofin. However, the border agents misidentified Sofin's vehicle and ended up zooming past him at a dangerous speed. Eventually, they realized their mistake, slowed down, and initiated a traffic stop on Sofin's Dodge Magnum. The agents claimed that Sofin was non-compliant to their commands. However, he was taken into custody without incident. The government initially charged him with, quote, high-speed flight from immigration checkpoint under Title 18, Section 758 of the Federal Code.
Because they were at high speeds.
Which is a felony that carries a sentence of up to 5 years in prison. However, when authorities realized their very own agents were the only ones traveling at a high rate of speed, they dropped that charge. Shortly thereafter, the government brought forward a lesser misdemeanor charge of, quote, forcibly interfering with a federal agent, unquote. After convicting Sofin at trial, one juror said he voted guilty because, quote, he should have to answer questions just like the rest of us.
Ah, yes, because you choose not to use your constitutional rights. And I don't have a good way to describe this because I'm not sure the rights are constitutional in this case. That hasn't been proven. But I'd say...
the right to remain silent is a constitutionally
not anymore.
Right.
It's not. Now you have to tell the Supreme Court recently ruled that you have to tell the police officers that you're not remaining silent, which is stupid, obviously. I suppose you could write it out on a piece of paper. I'm not answering questions. Then you would still be silent. But ultimately, to me, it's a foundation of sort of English common law. The idea is that you cannot be detained without reasonable, articulable suspicion. So the suspicion has to be reasonable, and the cop has to be able to tell you what it is. And that means when you say, why am I being detained? They need to tell you why you're being detained. This isn't about arrest. Arrest is something else. You need probable cause for arrest. Detention is something else. Now, this is a detention without suspicion.
That's right. You made that point during your checkpoint.
I made it multiple times.
Yeah.
Every car on Interstate 10, and likely this is where this was too, was being pulled over and asked, are you a U.S. citizen? Now, I've been told by somebody who, would know, whose wife may not be legal, that the reason they ask this is because if they decide that you don't sound, citizen-y enough, then they've got you for lying too.
Lying to a federal official.
And that's an additional charge, and that will get you kicked out and you can never return. It's one thing to get kicked out. It's another thing to lie and get the charge and then get kicked out and you can't return. And that it makes it all that much more difficult to ever come back. So that's the reason they ask you that question. I don't know if that's the reason. That's what he said, and sounds plausible, I suppose. But you, as a U.S. citizen, this is what our boys in the military fought and died for, was your rights. You have the right to not answer questions. So when their legal power to pull you over comes in conflict with you refusing to answer questions, then how is this resolved?
Yeah. So, in this case, you've got this juror who is saying that he convicted because he wants everybody to have to do what he has to do. He feels like he has to answer the questions. Why shouldn't this guy?
That's what I was getting all over Facebook is, all you had to do is answer the question, and I had a video, and it's got like 40,000 views.
Right, you're wasting other people's time, Mark.
Nope.
There are people behind you.
Who is pulling people over in the first place? This is the really funny thing is if I'm sitting there in line wasting people's time, who made you pull over in the first place? Why is it my fault?
They never blame the police.
No, they never do. It's like they're automatons. It's like they're a force of nature. They never get questioned. But I was pulled over into secondary, and I didn't refuse secondary. I didn't just sit there. So no one was prevented any longer period of time than they had to be by my situation. So people saying that you're bothering somebody else, not true. I was pulled over into secondary.
Not right away, though.
It wasn't instant, but it was within a minute.
Well, they would say that you delayed those other people behind you because everyone else would have just said no.
How do they know anybody was
I'm a
behind me?
Citizen.
What evidence do they have anyone was behind me?
True. They don't have any evidence.
There you go. I don't know that anyone was behind me. I can't answer that question. When I looked immediately when we were pulled over, there wasn't anybody there.
But it's jurors like this is why this guy, ended up going to, well, he didn't go to prison. Thankfully, they didn't make him go to prison while his appeal was pending, which is very unusual. I'm surprised they didn't actually just send him away because they certainly do that. They certainly did that to Ross Ulbricht, So this guy got lucky in that particular way.
Yeah.
But it's jurors like this obedient jury that is a huge problem in the United States. This is why taking a case to a jury is a really risky thing to do in general because, there is that chance you'll find one juror who's willing
Well, they don't know anything about constitutional law. They're burger flippers or truck drivers or, just average people going about their lives doing average things. To ask a jury to answer questions of constitutional law is really completely unfair. It's like asking a radio talk show host to do good brain surgery on you. It's silly.
Yeah. So what we need to have is more jurors who are informed and educated about their right to jury nullify, and that I think would make a big difference, especially if you concentrate liberty activists in one area like we're doing here with the Free State Project. Because the more liberty activists you concentrate in an area, it's just more likely you're going to get one on a jury. They're randomly picking names from
They've done it.
driver's license database and the voter database. And there are libertarian, early movers for the Free State Project who are in both of those databases. So there are going to be free staters, and you're right, Mark, it has happened already where one person, Doug Darrell, was set free from marijuana growing charges because of a free stater on his jury who flipped the entire jury. They were going to find him guilty, but she flipped them to not guilty. So one conscientious juror can make a difference and can actually set somebody free.
Fascinating story.
It is. According to the district court's opinion, Sofin, the man in this case we're talking about with the Border Patrol checkpoint, would have been granted a new trial due to the lower court allowing one of the Border Patrol agents to make a legal conclusion on the stand. But that wouldn't be necessary since the court overturned the conviction altogether, seemingly based on the interpretation of the word forcibly. Since the lower court could not, or rather did not, define the term to the jury, there was no basis on which to convict Mr. Sofin. The district court ruled that simply refusing to answer a federal agent's questions, coupled with the act of driving away in a safe manner, does not meet the legal threshold to charge him with forcible interference.
So this is what confuses me, because this would fall into sort of the local category of disorderly conduct.
You mean what the police were doing?
Yeah, what the police would have charged what he did. So what he did was basically refuse a verbal order, right?
Yeah.
Wait, come back here. I'm not done with you. Now, on a local level, the cops would say, that's disorderly conduct.
Yeah, they probably would.
That's the definition of disorderly conduct.
Hold that thought. 855-450-FREE. You can join us on Free Talk Live.
Currency is too important a thing to be left in the hands of government bureaucrats, especially when billions of dollars can be created with the swipe of a pen. Overstock.com supports the cryptocurrency movement because it returns the power of an inflation-proof money to the people where it belongs. Did you know that you can use Bitcoin to pay for anything Overstock.com sells while enjoying free shipping on orders of 0.211 Bitcoin or more? If you support freedom in the cryptocurrency movement, you should support Overstock.com.
DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phones, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.freetalklive.com. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit Free Talk Live when you enter Amazon via shop.freetalklive.com.
Radio is the most personal of mediums. I exist right now in your head. If you listen to Free Talk Live regularly, you know me. Free Talk Live is on more than 160 radio stations around the U.S. and has been downloaded on every continent around the world. Hundreds of thousands of listeners with ad packages from $600 a month to $6,000 a month. Imagine what we can do for your business, project, website, or idea. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
LRN.FM is proud to announce our official listening apps for Android and iOS devices. Now you can easily tune into our streams anywhere, anytime on your smartphone or tablet. Just visit apps.lrn.fm or search for LRN.FM in the Android or Apple app stores. Please download, rate us 5 stars, then share the link on your social media and let your friends and family know how you're listening to LRN.FM. Download it now, free at apps.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Temporarily from the Gulf Coast in Biloxi, Mississippi, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Sunday, February 28th, 2016. Silver is trading at $14.70 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,223 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $431. Antiwar.com reports as the Syrian ceasefire took effect, Turkey reiterated its serious concern about the plan after insisting in the last few days that they believe the ceasefire benefited the Russians and that they don't intend to be bound by the ceasefire themselves. The big objection by Turkey, though, as with everything even tangentially related to Syria, is the inclusion of the Kurdish YPG in the ceasefire, saying that if the U.S. and Russia want to exclude the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, they must also include the Kurds. The ceasefire went into effect midnight on Saturday Syrian time and has held so far, though the ceasefire explicitly excludes both the Islamic State and the Neutral Front. There have not been reports of any major happenings in their territory since then either, nor has Turkey attacked the Kurds in Syria so far since. The YPG, like most of the groups that endorse the ceasefire, say it reserves the right to respond if attacked. In either case, the most likely row would be with Turkey, as the Islamic State is not a party to the ceasefire and is their primary other opponent.
Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com.
UPI reports an executive and 2 companies pled guilty in federal court on Friday to marketing packages of cheese containing unacceptable amounts of wood pulp as 100% real Parmesan and Romano cheese. Castle Cheese Company executive Michelle Murter pled guilty to a misdemeanor of aiding and abetting to introduce misbranded and adulterated cheese products to interstate commerce. 2 other companies, Universal Cheese and Drying Incorporated and International Packaging LLC, also pled guilty to conspiring to introduce misbranded cheese and money laundering. Each corporation faces a fine of $500,000. Murter can face a 1-year sentence in prison, a $100,000 fine, or both, depending on the seriousness of the offense and her past legal history. U.S. Attorney David J. Hickton said the Department of Justice prosecutes people and companies who introduce adulterated or misbranded food food into interstate commerce. In this case, the fraud was perpetrated on consumers who purchased Parmesan and Romano cheese that were inferior to what they believed they were buying. A 2013 Food and Drug Administration report found that items labeled as 100% real Parmesan and Romano cheese distributed through the companies to various stores contained a combination of Swiss, mozzarella, and white cheddar cheeses, as well as wood pulp. The cheeses labeled as 100% real Parmesan and Romano cheese did not meet the FDA standard for such products and contained more than the permitted amount of cellulose, which derived from wood pulp, was used as filler. The mislabeled packages did not pose any health or safety threats to consumers, but they were sold under several brand names, which had no knowledge of the fraud.
For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co.
Reuters reports Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton crushed rival Bernie Sanders at the South Carolina primary on Saturday, propelling her into next week's crucial Super Tuesday voting in 11 states on a wave of momentum. The rout of Sanders solidified Clinton's status as the strong frontrunner to capture the party's nomination for the November 8th election in her quest to become America's first female president. After the win, Clinton appeared to be looking ahead to a general election matchup with Republican frontrunner Donald Trump. The result in South Carolina was Clinton's third victory in the first four Democratic contests. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
Following reports earlier today that Indiana University freshman Lawrence Plotnick's roommate Brian Tabor has found an excuse to go home every weekend since August, Plotnick spoke to Onion reporters about his roommate's frequent trips to his nearby hometown of Terre Haute, Indiana.
Every week since we got here, it seems like every time I ask him if he wants to hang out on Friday, he has some wedding or birthday party or something. In fact, I'm pretty sure he hasn't spent a single Friday or Saturday night on campus in the past 6 months.
Plotnick went on to cite a variety of far-ranging excuses used by his roommate to justify his constant visits home, including various family functions, a visiting friend from China, as well as his occasional desire to, quote, just hang out at home for a couple of days.
I mean, I suppose I vaguely understood when he had to go back in November because his best friend's grandfather died, but last weekend he had to go back for his aunt and uncle's wedding anniversary. He said he couldn't miss it.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. You're invited to join us on the radio waves. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. With you tonight, you've got Ian.
And Mark.
And we're sharing with you a story about a guy whose recent court decision in the U.S. District Court of Appeals apparently resulted in him being set free from what would have been an 8-month federal prison sentence for so-called forcible interference with a federal Border Patrol agent. Basically, he drove off rather than answering the question about, are you a U.S. citizen? Now, Mark, you were involved in a similar situation just about a month or so ago down at what appears to be the same exact checkpoint just east of El Paso, Texas, where this man was arrested. At one point, it's made clear by the agent that you are not free to go, and you chose to not go ahead and drive off because it would have been inconvenient for you to be arrested along with your family on the side of the road in El Paso, I imagine.
I wanted that wasn't the case I was going for.
Because you're going to get arrested. And, even if the charges dropped later on, as it has been in this case, who knows what this guy had to pay for an attorney in order to get to the appeals court and succeed. I imagine it was not cheap.
Right. So what I wanted was to be detained without my permission.
Okay, you were.
Yeah, for like 4 minutes.
Yep.
And I don't. The problem with is in that circumstance is that Martinez Fuerte versus the United States, they ruled that period of time it's not significant detention. Why are you here bothering us? And so I wanted to see if we could get something a little more than that going on by simply refusing to answer the question. I want to know, as a United States citizen, can I choose not to answer these questions? Because Martinez Fuerte did answer the questions. It was just the detention that he took the case after he had been detained, what he felt was unlawfully. And I think that there's a good argument that it would be unlawfully, but the Supreme Court didn't feel it was that was the case in that circumstance.
Right. So and then this isn't legal advice. This is just our understanding, having been paying attention to these internal border checkpoints for years. You're not under any obligation to answer their question. And I think it's particularly useful when people go through and they make these checkpoint videos, because everybody has a slightly different approach. Everybody, somebody might just choose to not answer at all. Some might choose to answer the question with a question, like, just basically batting a question back at the officer. Well, what's your citizenship, officer? Just never actually answering.
It's kind of rude because everybody that was there looked Hispanic.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to turn this into a racial thing.
I think that was a good move.
I think it's slightly. It was many people expressed their amusement that I, who's looks for all intents and purposes like standard issue white guy, was being questioned by people who had strong Spanish type accents about my U.S. citizenship. And I can see the amusement. However, I would point out that those people have in them more American blood, blood of Native Americans than I do. So I don't think that's a particularly good argument, but some people were amused by it.
I do like Kenny Suter's approach, which I don't know if he's used at an internal border checkpoint, but I'm a big fan. I've become a fan of the approach of just simply answering everything with, I don't answer questions. Because then
I said I'm not answering questions today. This is my favorite. I love to give them the like notion.
You might someday. It's not your lucky day today.
Sorry. I'm not answering
nothing
questions
personal.
Today.
Right. Yeah, and so saying I'm not answering questions is a way to answer without answering, right? You are responding to the person, so it's clear you heard what they said to you. They can't claim that you acted like you didn't hear them or something like that, and so they had to pull you from the car violently. No, it's pretty clear you heard them. You're just not answering questions. And that also, I think it also accomplishes the notice that you were talking about, how the Supreme Court in the United States has said that you now have to put the police on notice if you do intend to use your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. So by saying I'm not answering questions, that's kind of accomplishing that, right? You're letting the police know, hey, you can just go ahead and stop asking questions right now because I'm not going to answer them. And then as they continue to ask you questions, because they're not going to stop.
Over and over. He's like, okay, well, where are you born? Planet Earth.
Yeah,
I did answer that question.
I like that one.
And he said planet Earth is in the United States. It was a very stressful situation. I can totally understand.
He probably didn't process what you had said.
Yeah.
So
not Planet Hollywood.
Your video is viewable on the Free Talk Live YouTube channel. It's Free Talk Live Radio is the name of the YouTube channel. You can go to youtube.freetalklive.com.
The easiest way to find it, likely if you have a Facebook account, is just to go to facebook.freetalklive.com.
It is on the Facebook
Click
page,
on the thing, find the videos section. You'll have to likely click on the drop-down menu to get it.
I don't know if that's much easier, Mark, than going to youtube.freetalklive.com.
What would you sort based
sorting by popularity?
Okay, then that would be the way to do it. Yeah, that's the easiest way to do it.
Because then when you go to Facebook, then you're just giving them more business. I mean, it's one mega corporation versus another, but I got to say I'd pick YouTube over Facebook any day.
Yeah, I would say that that's not what my preference is. My preference is to get the listener the ability to watch the video if that's what they want to do. You can see my wife's jab at the end of the video where she's like, apparently all you have to do is act like a belligerent jackass to get out of things.
It was funny.
It was funny. Whatever. It's a good video, and it's probably worth seeing. 4 minutes out of your life.
So a little bit more here from the court case. BrettSanders.me reporting on Michael Sofin, who was victorious after an appeal to the U.S. District Court. Once he was found guilty originally, he appealed to them, and the court basically threw out the entire case, saying the feds did not make a good case that this man was using force by simply driving calmly away from the checkpoint. which was essentially the state's argument previously. Here's an excerpt from the decision by the judge in the case. Quote, while Sofin did not merely refuse to cooperate and instead drove away from Agent Mossman, there is no evidence that during the 30-second encounter, Sofin used any force directed at Agent Mossman. In this case, there is no evidence that Sofin directed any force at the agent, and instead, Sofin pulled away from the agent while his head was turned. Sofin did not attempt to run Agent Mossman over, did not rev up his engine, or, quote, take off, leaving tire marks, unquote. And as Agent Mossman himself confirmed, Sofin did not threaten or intimidate him. The government argues that Sofin used his vehicle, a 4,000-pound Dodge Magnum, to, quote, forcibly flee the checkpoint because he was enshrined in this 4,000-pound box, unquote. So this is the government's argument.
So the agent couldn't grab him because he was safe on the vehicle is the notion? That's not force.
However, there is no evidence that Sofin was accelerating rapidly, and when Sofin drove away, he did not attempt to run Agent Mossman over, threaten the agent, rev up his engine, leave tire marks. They already said that. Agent Mossman did not have to, quote, jump out of the way of Sofin's car, and he did not attempt to reach into Sofin's car to try to grab the steering wheel. None of the evidence demonstrates that the man's act of driving away from the checkpoint in his Dodge Magnum was forceful. Even if Sofin's behavior could be interpreted as forceful, no act was directed at the agent as it might have been. For example, had he driven towards the agent's person or otherwise used his vehicle to interfere with the agent. And again, as Agent Mossman acknowledged, essentially Sofin pulled away. So that's an excerpt there from the case.
This happens every day in parking lots all across America. People pull away.
We now have the case of an individual refusing to answer any questions from a Border Patrol agent, then driving off before he was verbally told that he was free to go, and miraculously beat all the charges the government threw at him. So assuming the government did their due diligence to find the most applicable charges in this situation...
And I'm not ready to assume that.
Yeah, that's true. There is seemingly...
In this case, this is the question I was formulating a little earlier, is that this is essentially disorderly conduct. It's refusing the order of a police officer. And you'd think that they'd have that on a national level, and apparently they didn't. They don't have this on a national level, or they didn't charge this guy with it. They didn't feel like that was necessary. Because I can assure you that this is a local police officer, and the stop was lawful. You pull away, you're going to get all kinds of charges.
That's a good point. And one of the definitions of disorderly conduct, I did pull it up here, is that it is the ignoring of a lawful order, basically. So then the question becomes, well, was this actually a lawful order, and was he under an order at that point? I mean, is the cop shouting at the car as he pulls away, "Hey, I haven't let you go yet"? Is that an order? Hey, come back here. What if you can't hear the lawfully, even if it was a lawful order? What if it did not connect with your ears appropriately? Toll-free number here, 855-450-FREE. You can share your thoughts on the checkpoints.
Every once in a while, you get information that's worth changing your life for. This is one such time. You can save up to and beyond 25% on all purchases at Amazon. You probably heard of Bitcoin and just not thought much about it. You certainly know that you can get competitive pricing at Amazon, but now you can get a 25% discount on nearly everything you need to live. I've just given you a huge raise, and all you have to do is claim it. You go to saveitpurse.com and open an account. Do this right now. Don't wait. Then you fund the account with Bitcoin. You can buy them through expresscoin.com with a check or money order. There are other ways to get Bitcoin, but that's fast, safe, and easy. This information is worth you changing the way you do things. Go to saveitpurse.com right now, get signed up, and cash in on the huge raise I'm offering you. 15 to 25% off of everything at Amazon through saveitpurse.com. It's saveatpurse.com.
It's about time something new came along for better selling and buying online. And I found it.
What now, Marge?
It's buysellmakeoffer.com.
Never heard of it.
It's a brand new company. That's why you've never heard of it. It's the newest and best way to sell any products online. I did all the research.
Sell my car?
Yes.
Our home?
Yep.
My golf bag?
Your golf clubs. All of them.
How about your purse collection hoard?
Hey, now.
You said any product.
Right. I did. We get 30 days free.
Really?
Packages starting from only $7.95. And buysellmakeoffer.com will never charge item fees ever. Never. And this is cool. Listen to this. You can even use Skype or video to show your items.
That's cool.
Yes. to do is go to the website, sign up, and then load our stuff to sell. I love this site.
BuySellMakeOffer.com.
BuySellMakeOffer.com. You got it?
BuySellMakeOffer.com.
BuySellMakeOffer.com. Better selling, better buying.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phone, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.freetalklive.com. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit Free Talk Live when you enter Amazon via shop.freetalklive.com.
This Your Family Today tip is brought to you by Stouffer's, helping bring your family together with wholesome dinner options, even on the busiest of nights. Find dinner table ideas to bring your family together at letsfixdinner.com. To get kids involved in dinnertime conversation, ask specific questions, not broad ones. Instead of what happened today at school, try what was the best thing that happened today. The more specific you are, the more they'll have to say. For more tips like these, visit us at parenthood.com/yourfamilytoday.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
This is Free Talk Live. Dial toll-free here and join us at 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And joining you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Mark.
If you want to join us online, there are a lot of different ways to do that. Go get interactive at freetalklive.com. Lots of features there, totally free.
Super Beats. It's a supplement that I've been taking for probably about a month now. It tastes great. All I do is mix it in with water. And what it does is it increases the nitric oxide levels in my blood. I know this because they have nitric oxide strips that you can test yourself with before and after. Now, I generally do it just before I take it and then maybe an hour after it. I think they say it takes like 20 minutes for it to really sort of be assimilated. And the nitric oxide, as was proven by the Nobel Prize winning team in 1998, that it's good for your heart health and that sort of thing. So it lowers blood pressure, and I have high blood pressure, so I've been using Super Beats to regulate that. Essentially, you're going to have cardiovascular issues at some point in your life if you live long enough. So this is for anybody who plans to live past 50. If you don't feel like you've gotten the results when you try Super Beats, you don't pay. Guaranteed. You get a 30-day supply free with your first order. You also get the indicator strips so you can see it's working. You get the free book, Beat the Odds, and all of it comes to you with free shipping. You can't beat this deal. FTLbeats.com, 800-951-8940, FTLbeats.com, 800-951-8940.
Now, the disorderly conduct statutes, at least here in New Hampshire, are pretty big. Like, it's a pretty lengthy statute. But ultimately, Mark, you were saying that even though the federal government has failed at convicting a man who drove away from a checkpoint east of El Paso, like it was sometime in I believe late 2014 or sometime in 2015 when he was convicted of this, and I think it was late 2014 when he was arrested for it.
but basically refusing to answer the question about citizenship and then driving away from the checkpoint, normally, not quickly or in a dangerous manner. The feds tried to come at him with some sort of interference or violent interference with a federal agent, and that didn't stick. And so you've got Brett Sanders at brettsanders.me giving his own legal interpretation here, saying that assuming the government did their due diligence to find the most applicable charges in the situation, which, as you said, Mark, you shouldn't assume those things, but nonetheless, let's go on with what he says here. There's seemingly no legal teeth to stop anyone from repeating Sofin's process. As long as the individual stops at the checkpoint, refuses to answer the questions, and then just drives away, there's, in theory, no charge that could hold a conviction. However, that doesn't mean that the Border Patrol will not still chase your vehicle at excessive rates of speed to violently apprehend you, lock you in jail, and steal your private property. Also, the government can keep their mirage of authority from being challenged, so proceed with caution, he advises, and I would agree with that.
Seems like a pretty fair assessment, yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you were, I think that by this case, you may have been within your rights to drive away from the checkpoint, Mark, but I think it was a better video because you didn't, because you just waited it out to see where it went.
Well, a lot of these people are dealing with this stuff on a day-to-day basis.
That's got to be frustrating.
This was new to me, and mainly what I wanted to do was see whether I could get them to detain me for a period of time. A real period of time, substantial,
more than 2 minutes or something.
Yeah, a period of time by simply refusing to answer their question. And they did not take the bait. They're just like, nope, we're not going to do that. We're not going to detain you. It's pretty obvious to all of us that you're a U.S. citizen, so get out of here.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
But your question earlier was...
After a patriotic speech, there where he did everything but sing the national anthem. And the rocket's red glare. Right. Like, the suggestion being that I'm a bad American for not answering the questions.
That's
Look,
said,
I've got a flag on my shoulder, so you've got to answer my questions if you're a good American.
Right,
no.
Didn't he thank you for helping law enforcement?
Some nonsense
even though you weren't
like
cooperating with him?
Yeah, bye-bye. Save your jingoism.
Yeah. So the question...
Watch it on YouTube, pal.
The question you'd asked previously was, could they have charged him with disorderly conduct? And there is apparently a federal disorderly conduct statute, or whatever you call them at the federal level, code, U.S. code. But it's not as detailed as the local New Hampshire one is, and I don't know what the Texas one looks like. But usually this kind of stuff is boilerplate, meaning that it's kind of the same throughout different places. I mean, it might be somewhat different, but generally disorderly conduct. It's not like these states all individually craft this legislation that gets enacted. They copy from one to the next and maybe change a few words here and there.
Especially if they can get it through the Supreme Courts, then it's found constitutional, then they've all got to have it.
Yeah, so definition 2E of the disorderly conduct statute says it is disorderly conduct when one knowingly refuses to comply with a lawful order of a peace officer to move from or remain away from any public place. Or so on and so forth. So they talk about how disorderly conduct could be engaging in violence, fighting, threatening behavior in a public place. It could be directing at another person a obscene, derisive, or offensive word that it would be likely to provoke a violent reaction. It could be obstructing vehicular or pedestrian traffic on any public street or sidewalk, which is, by the way, what the Border Patrol is doing. So if anyone's guilty of disorderly conduct, it's actually the Border Patrol, because they're the ones who are obstructing vehicle traffic day in, day out. Car after car after car. They're all getting stopped. Many of them are getting stopped or slowed down and waved through at best. Right? They don't just have a clear lane where you just get to drive through. There's a good chance you're going to get stopped for a moment when you go through one of these checkpoints. Well, that's disorderly conduct. If I go if I get one of those little what do you call it, thing that raises and lowers when you're at a checkpoint? The arms. Yeah, it's an arm, electronic arm.
Yeah, okay.
So if I were to go and get some electronic arm set up on the side of a one-lane road or something like that, and start stopping people on the side of the road and demanding they answer my questions before I'll let them pass.
You're like actually a bridge troll
like a
at
troll.
that point.
That's disorderly conduct. They would arrest me for disorderly conduct, but they don't do it to themselves because law enforcement is exempt from the disorderly conduct statutes. But is it disorderly conduct, in this case, knowingly refusing to comply with a lawful order to move from or remain away from any public place? Well, that's not exactly the case in this, because he was told that he wasn't free to go, but that's not exactly an order to remove yourself from a place. So I don't know, Mark. Maybe it wouldn't be disorderly conduct. Your thoughts are certainly welcome here. 855-450-FREE. That's our toll-free number, 855-450-3733. You can bring up anything. Armed Truth is on the line, and I believe in California via Skype. Go ahead, Armed Truth.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Hey, what's on your mind tonight?
Yeah, I actually wanted to call. It's a little off topic, but it's regarding I have a friend at work who I work with who was a very, very, pretty much staunch Republican, build a wall, drug war, because we started talking about Trump. But slowly over time, past 9 months or so, I'm kind of starting to make him lean more towards libertarianism. He doesn't really feel as much about the wall anymore. He thinks, he kind of sees how illegal immigration, the whole debacle they're trying to do is a waste of time and money and, is immoral. As well as the drug war, we should stop the drug war, the wars, getting all the troops home. So I'm starting to get him more towards libertarianism. But my main question is, and I don't really know is where to start, is where would be some good literature, books or articles or something to show him or give him, as well as kind of myself to read on that.
All right, stand by. Armed Truth. We'll discuss what do you give to someone who's maybe thinking about the ideas of liberty. 855-450-FREE. It's Free Talk Live.
Removing bad taste and odor from your drinking water is easy. Removing the bad stuff you don't taste is what ProPure does best. Water the way nature meant it to be. Clean, crisp, and refreshing. See the complete line of ProPure countertop, inline, gravity, and household water filtration products. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com or call 800-544-3533.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Slingbow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug-out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of slingbow. A new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
Every once in a while, you get information that's worth changing your life for. This is one such time. You can save up to and beyond 25% on all purchases at Amazon. You probably heard of Bitcoin and just not thought much about it. You certainly know that you can get competitive pricing at Amazon, but now you can get a 25% discount on nearly everything you need to live. I've just given you a huge raise, and all you have to do is claim it. You go to saveitpurse.com and open an account. Do this right now. Don't wait. Then you fund the account with Bitcoin. I know this sounds unbelievable, but at my house, we saved as much as 45% off of a new item on Amazon. This information is worth you changing the way you do things. Go to saveitpurse.com right now, get signed up, and cash in on the huge raise I'm offering you. 15 to 25% off of everything at Amazon through saveitpurse.com. It's saveatpurse.com.
Are you a political activist who does things that the government might not like? Then this free ebook may save your life. Rats is your guide to protecting yourself against snitches, informers, informants, agents provocateur, narcs, finks, and similar vermin. Rats was written by OG libertarian Claire Wolfe. Rats is a short book, easy to read, and available free in many formats. Download Rats free at rats-nosnitch.com. That's rats-nosnitch.com.
The three most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1, share one episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2, buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3, give $5 a month to the AMP program. It's my firm belief that Free Talk Live's AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented organizations. Support all the organizations you love, but make sure you give $5 a month to AMP at amp.freetalklive.com.
Money, power, and respect are all yours at creditsuccesssecretsrevealed.com. Be seen as an industry leader. You can do it. The last application you filled out when it was time to hit submit to Juror Nerve Spike. You didn't get the approval you seek, but there's a better way. We teach you exactly what to place into the right systems the right way the first time so you get approved. Get up to $100,000 in instant business credit. Many people will get cash on the spot. Use those two tools in your new corporate credit engine so you can walk into the bank and get your project funded today. It's all about today at CreditSuccessSecretsRevealed.com. Credit Success Secrets Revealed is explosive and ignites instant results. Dial 1-800-707-8719. That's 1-800-707-8719. 1-800-707-8719. Or just go to CreditSuccessSecretsRevealed.com.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip-in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You can join us here toll-free, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. In studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Mark.
Don't forget, you can join us online at freetalklive.com. You want to learn about why liberty lives in New Hampshire, why 20,000 people have signed up for the Free State Project and are planning to make their move here to New Hampshire to get active, to achieve liberty in their lifetime, hopefully. Go to 101reasonsfilm.com. You can watch this excellent hour-long documentary film produced by Free State Project Early Movers for people who are considering moving here. This is going to give you an outline of just some of the reasons why New Hampshire is the destination for people who love liberty. Go to 101reasonsfilm.com. That's 101reasonsfilm.com. That's where you want to go if you are advanced in the ideas of liberty. If you love the ideas of freedom and you're willing to pick up your life and move for it, check out 101reasonsfilm.com. If you're new to the ideas of liberty, you're not quite ready for 101reasonsfilm.com. But Armed Truth is calling in, wondering what it is that you could share with someone who is relatively new to the ideas of freedom. Armed Truth, you say that you have a coworker who is a Donald Trump supporter. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. This whole election, I think, really could benefit the libertarian movement, because talking to people who most of them are hardcore Republicans and some Democrats, is no one really likes anybody. There's no real hardcore, except for the Hillary fans who are the worst, but I'm for this candidate.
A lot of them are just saying things like, it's time we had a woman president, and I think she's more qualified. They're not really saying, you know what, yay, Hillary.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, we've asked him, there's one guy at my work who we've asked, he's this hardcore Hillary supporter, and we asked him, what is it about Hillary that really is, makes you want to vote for her, that, could make us vote for her? And you can't really even ask her the question. He goes, she'll be the one to turn it around. It's time for her. And it is. They say she's a woman. That I have my sister-in-law. She's voting for Hillary because she says it's time for a woman president. And made my wife go crazy. Got in a big argument. But, it's crazy. But so
your question is,
turning one of my I'm kind of turning one of my coworkers over time. I'm slowly been talking to him about the ideas of liberty. And kind of how it should be. And he's really changed a lot of his views. He really doesn't pay too much attention to the news. So when I started showing stuff to him and explaining it to him, it kind of clicked in his head like, wow, he's never really thought of that or seen any of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, what is some good literature? We've watched a couple Ron Paul videos and stuff is good, but I was wondering what would be good to show them to say, hey, read this or go to this website.
This is one of the hardest questions. I mean, because there's so much out there that is of a liberty-oriented viewpoint that is written down
and good
and very, very good. So I guess really the question should be more specific in terms to like how far along is he? Does he need to hear things on one topic or another? Does he just need a general overview of the ideas of liberty? How much can he tolerate reading? Some people don't like to read at all. Some people prefer to watch a video or something like that. And
there's always the Philosophy of Liberty video.
Or there's the Philosophy of Liberty pamphlet. So are we talking about, are you looking for a book or are you looking for like a trifold?
Yeah, he's not going to sit down and read a 400-page book on the ideas of liberty.
Then I would go with the Philosophy of Liberty.
Quick.
You're looking for something that's small, that's going to go over the ideas of freedom, basically, just generally, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just
that,
to
I
get
think
them,
the philosophy of liberty is the best thing you can do. So there's a video online that is called The Philosophy of Liberty. It was made, I believe, by Ken Schoolin, or at least he wrote it. Somebody else animated and voiced it, I think. And this thing's been around forever. It was actually a Flash presentation years ago, and then someone took it and exported it into video format. It's been on YouTube ever since. So if you search YouTube for The Philosophy of Liberty, that should bring it up. It's on the Free Keen YouTube channel as well. It was actually the first video that I uploaded to the Free Keen YouTube channel. So if you want to find it there, you can do that. There's also a printed version of The Philosophy of Liberty. So the video's excellent. It uses like stick figure animation. So it's as simple and as basic a primer on the ideas of freedom as you can
It's
get.
actually on the Libertarian bingo game. So the notion is this is made by people who don't particularly like libertarians. So the philosophy of liberty, you gotta watch this video, is one of the things on the Libertarian bingo game. And if you've experienced any of these things in dealing with a libertarian, you get to mark that thing in. So
I
there
see.
you go.
Because it's a good one. And so what we did was a few years ago here in Keene, some of the activists decided we wanted to have a generic liberty flyer, because we've got flyers for different issues like jury nullification, for instance, and court outreach, plea deal, etc. But we didn't really have anything that specifically dealt with liberty. So we took the text from The Philosophy of Liberty, we transcribed the entire thing, and then we broke it down, we simplified it, we cut out entire portions, and basically made a simplified version of The Philosophy of Liberty video that fit onto an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper in a trifold format. And that flyer is available for anyone who wants it to download. Just go to tools.freekeen.com. That's tools.freekeen.com, and you can find the full printable flyer in high resolution. You can download it, send it to your favorite printer, and then give it to your buddy, or if you just want to give him the link to it, and if he's willing to read it online, he can just read it in digital form in that way. But it's actually a pretty nice outreach tool. So if you were going to be doing some kind of an outreach booth, or hitting up the county fair, for instance, or a concert venue, a place where a lot of people are going to be, this is a good flyer to just hand out to people. And it's generic, so it works anywhere. It's not like a New Hampshire specific thing, so anyone is welcome to do it. Go to tools.freekeen.com. Does that help you at all, Armed Truth?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Good luck with that guy, and thanks for the call tonight. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, and that's where a lot of the tools that we've talked about here on Free Talk Live are located, as far as activist outreachy kind of things. The Philosophy of Liberty, though, is probably the most generic one, but there's also pretty good jury nullification flyer, although it's New Hampshire specific. There's also a good plea deal flyer, which is not as New Hampshire specific. And so some good info. You're welcome to use it.
Yeah, and one of the ways that, this is what Free Talk Live is about, is attempting to bring these ideas to people who, for instance, want to listen to talk radio. Mm-hmm. So Free Talk Live doesn't encapsulate it as quickly as the Philosophy of Liberty. We're more like libertarian water torture, drip, drip, drip over time. Yeah. We drop the message in. But different people want to consume in different fashions. Maybe this guy needs to read some Ludwig von Mises, or
doesn't sound like
it. Doesn't sound like it either. That's pretty academic stuff, but it can be very convincing. Murray Rothbard can be a very convincing author to some young academic-minded young men and women out there, and convert a lot of people. There's fiction writers, Heinlein and Ayn Rand. These people have been credited for bringing people into the liberty ranks. Lots of new fiction out there too.
Yeah, this is why it's important to know your audience. So if you know who you're dealing with, if this person is someone who would enjoy an academic book, there are plenty of texts like that for the libertarian movement. If it's someone who you can ask them too, like, hey, you seem interested in these ideas we've been discussing. Would you like to learn more about it? And if so, would you prefer a video, an 8-minute video, or would you prefer a pamphlet? And get their preference, because you want to give them something they're going to want to consume.
Sure.
You don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste their time. You don't want to waste your money.
And if you're just talking to people at work and that sort of thing, it's obviously a great way to do these things. When you pose your question, don't pose it like this. Do you have the right to tax me to send your kid to school? Pose it like this. do I have the right to tax you to send my kid to school? So make yourself the villain in these circumstances rather than putting the person on the defensive in that way. You can, hey, then you can give them the idea of what it might feel like to be a victim.
No doubt. Hey, by the way, I was informed by one of our producers, Cyphes, that the arm that I was talking about, the electronic arm that you see at like railroad crossings and checkpoints, there's a name for it, and it's called apparently a boom barrier or a boom gate. Toll-free number here tonight, 855-450-FREE. Join us on the live Sunday edition of Free Talk Live. As a pioneer of the e-commerce movement, Overstock.com is proud to be the first major retailer to accept Bitcoin. Overstock was the first because Patrick Byrne, Overstock's CEO and founder, firmly believes in personal freedom and cryptocurrency. Over the past 16 years, Overstock has furnished over 18 million homes with a diverse line of products to suit everyone's unique styles and preferences. Support Overstock and freedom of choice while enjoying free shipping on orders of 0.211 Bitcoin or more.
Are you searching for your soulmate? Someone you can trust, who will never betray you, or cooperate with the NSA? Stop searching. With EasyDNS, you found a keeper. EasyDNS does it all. Domain names, web hosting, and managed WordPress hosting. EasyDNS stands up for your internet freedom, and with servers in Canada, they do not cooperate with the NSA. Go to EasyDNS.com. You'll love their services or get a full refund. They guarantee it, and they accept Bitcoin. That's EasyDNS.com.
Hi, this is Dr. Joel Wallach, the Mineral Doctor. You've heard me talk about 90 for Life for years. 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 2 fatty acids. You may not know this, that I've actually designed Arthrodex for animals. That's right. Your pets need 90 for Life, too. Get this essential pet product by calling 877-279-9422. That's 877-279-9422. Again, 877-279-9422.
Ted Anderson telling you about Jordan Rubin's Beyond Organic Green-Fed Raw Cheddar Artesian Cheese featuring whole milk created through ancient dairy breeding, unpasteurized, untreated whole milk on the same farm the cows graze, containing natural sources of omega-3s, CLA protein, calcium, probiotics, and enzymes. I have never tasted cheese this good, and you need to try it. Contact your Longevity distributor or call 877-878-4203 or go to gcnteam.com.
Understanding your credit score is the first step towards managing and improving it. This is Charlie Sundstrom with your Van Dyke Mortgage Minute. The most influential component of your credit score is your payment history. Almost equally as important is the amount you owe on credit accounts. Also impacting your score, but to a lesser degree, are the length of time you've utilized your credit, the number of new accounts, credit inquiries, and your various types of credit accounts. To help achieve or maintain a healthy credit score, have a system set up to assure your bills are always paid on time. Don't max out your cards. It's better to have a high credit limit with a low balance. Never close old accounts. The age of these can actually help your credit score. But don't be afraid to use your credit. You need several accounts in order to have a credit score. Just keep the corresponding payments within your means. For your mortgage pre-approval and refi needs, start by visiting VanDykeMortgage.com.
Corporate NMLS 3035. Van Dyke Mortgage is an equal housing lender. Charlie Sundstrom, NMLS 134251.
You can listen to Free Talk Live on the radio, podcast, satellite, webcam, and our live streams. But did you know you can listen to Free Talk Live from any phone, anywhere? Add this number to your phone, 213-493-0308. It's a long-distance call, so make sure you're familiar with your phone's calling plan. The listen lines are airing the latest episode of Free Talk Live 24 hours a day, including our live shows. Call 213-493-0308. That's 213-493-0308.
This is your Robertson Roberts Brokerage Daily Precious Metals Update. On Friday, gold is down $8 at $1,226 per ounce. Silver is 25 cents lower at $14.95 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at $424 US. It's the end of the week and we're seeing a slight sell-off in gold and silver. To take advantage of this, give us a call at 800-874-9760 or online at rrbi.co.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. Moments remain, but enough time for you. If you want to dial in now and join us here at 855-450-FREE, that's 855-450-3733. We were discussing disorderly conduct and whether or not driving away from a checkpoint, specifically the internal checkpoints run by the Border Patrol in Texas, where one man in the El Paso area was convicted initially of so-called forcibly interfering with a federal Border Patrol agent, but then later on appeal, the entire charge was overturned, the entire thing was reversed, and he was set free. And that was basically because the court said, well, yeah, we don't think that this was forcible. He did not break away from the grasp of the agent. He didn't shove the agent. He didn't target him with his car. He just simply drove off after not answering the agent's questions about whether or not he was a U.S. citizen. And so that opens up a big question of whether or not someone would be able to get away with this in the future. I would say probably not, at least not initially, because they don't put out a notice to all the Border Patrol agents saying, whoa, everybody, heads up. There's this case, Mr. Sofin out of Florida, who was at the El Paso checkpoint, and he was let go. Later on by the courts, they overturned our arrest. You shouldn't be arresting anyone who drives away. They won't send that notice out because there really is no punishment for the officers involved. It's not like this guy is going to be getting, at least not at this point, there's not yet a civil penalty, meaning that he hasn't had a civil case that he's filed against the Border Patrol for an unlawful detention. He wasn't unlawfully detained. He was unlawfully arrested later on down the line, but they would argue that, well, we didn't think it was unlawful, so therefore, there wasn't any malice on our part. We thought we were doing what was legal by arresting him for this, fallacious charge. And so the next time this happens, if you try this, for instance, if you just decide you don't want to answer the question and say toodles and just start driving away and they come after you, well, first of all, you'll be lucky if you survive them coming after you, right? They could run you off the road. They could crash into your car. They could start a fire. I mean, who knows what could happen to you? They
could shoot at you and say they thought that you were pulling a weapon.
Absolutely.
Anything they want to do. So
I don't recommend doing what this guy did. I think what he did was ballsy, and I commend him for it. Way to go, man. And especially the fact that he continued on and didn't just take it lying down, and he went and he appealed and ultimately was victorious. Kudos to him. But ultimately, you're taking your own life in your hands here. You shouldn't be, but that's ultimately what's happening when you give the police the opportunity to pursue you in a hot pursuit, in a chase, which is what ultimately happened in this case, even though he didn't even know he was being chased, because apparently the police passed him during the chase, not realizing which car they were looking for or whatever. So anyway, it comes back down to a question of disorderly conduct and, where do you draw that line, or where is the line drawn on what is considered disorderly conduct? There's a lot of words in the disorderly conduct statute. There are areas in which you could push a bus through as far as what could be considered disorderly conduct. Going through more of this statute here, this is the state of New Hampshire's variant on this. Now, each state slightly different, but many very, very similar. So I read off some of the qualifications earlier. One of them is knowingly refusing to comply with a lawful order of a peace officer to move from or remain away from any public place. So that's where our friend James Cleveland, our sometimes co-host here on Free Talk Live, got into some hot water outside of a scene of a suicide. He was on the other side of a building when a state trooper told him, you got to move back. You're too close to the situation. You got to move back.
And he moved back.
And then another state trooper came up and said, you got to move back again.
Right.
And he moved back again.
I'd point out on the first occasion, he moved back to where the trooper found acceptable. And the second occasion, he moved back to where the trooper found acceptable. And then a third time, another trooper, or was it the same one as the second?
Different trooper the third time, I believe.
Different trooper comes up, wants to move him back again. Now, remember, he'd already been cleared twice to stand where he was by two different troopers. So, I mean, where can they move him to? Cleveland?
Well, and that's ultimately one of the questions that was even asked by the judge in the case, Judge Burke here in Keene, the district court judge, was, well, where do you draw the line on disorderly conduct? Okay, it's clear that the troopers can make they can give this order to move. They can tell you, you're in danger, son. You're going to need to move out of here. And that's sort of the classic lawful order, right?
They're public safety officers, right?
And the judge asked this, and I think it was one of the most important questions that one could ask in this case was, how far is lawful?
Well, they didn't
is it
get
a mile?
But he didn't get an answer. And I think this is really, like, court's supposed to give answer questions, and it didn't.
Right.
And the judge ultimately found him guilty, I believe.
He did.
He found him. He asked that question, didn't get an answer to it, and then found him guilty.
Which
I want to know the answer. When a police officer tells me that I have to move back, how far is too far? What they're going to say is a safe distance. Well, 2 officers thought that they had moved to a safe distance, and a third one didn't. Exactly. Do I have to interview every stinking law enforcement officer in the damn country when somebody wants me to do something?
And whose safety? Is it the officer's safety that we're concerned with, or the individual's safety that we're concerned with?
We're not concerned with safety. We're concerned with cops telling people what to do.
Yes.
That's what this was all about.
Right. And in James's case, he appealed, just like this guy at the Border Patrol checkpoint appealed. And it's always those lower courts that rule in the favor of the state, almost every single time. If you want to get a decent ruling, you've got to go up, which unfortunately means more money, which means more attorney's fees and things like that. But James appealed, and he did bring an attorney in for the jury trial. He ended up defeating the resisting arrest charge at the jury, so he was convicted of that under the judge, but the jury kicked that one out, and the jury was hung on the question of disorderly conduct. And I think those questions of, well, how far is too far? How far can these cops say, move back 20 miles? I mean, most people would say that's ridiculous, right? But
It's not ridiculous when they create things like free speech zones and they tell you, oh yeah, all you protesters are going to have to go in that 20 by 20 fenced in area.
Well, I think that's ridiculous, but some people might not. And so at what point does the amount of distance become ridiculous? If I say, move back a mile, that sounds, to me, that's ridiculous. Someone else might say, well, there could be a explosion that goes off, and it could possibly nuclear explosion here. It could hurt someone.
There's always the possibility of a very large explosion.
But, move back 20 feet. Okay, most people are going to say that sounds more reasonable. Move back 200 feet. Move back 2,000 feet. Move back 2 miles. I mean, at what point does it become absurd and no longer a lawful order? So those things aren't clear in the disorderly conduct statute. But further, there's more that could count as disorderly conduct. He who causes a breach of the peace purposely causes a breach of the peace, public inconvenience, annoyance, or alarm, or recklessly creates a risk thereof by A, making loud or unreasonable noises in a public place, making loud or unreasonable noises in a private place, which can be heard in a public place or other private places, which noises would disturb a person of average sensibilities.
Right.
Now, what does that mean?
Who knows?
What is a person of average sensibilities and, noises? Wait a minute. Isn't free speech a noise? When I'm making words with my mouth, am I not making noise?
I can tell you that most people don't like it when I start talking about my beliefs on politics.
No doubt. And so are those loud and unreasonable and disturbing to someone who is of average sensibilities? Or B, disrupting the orderly conduct of business in any public or government facility. Now, again, I'm reading these with the idea of could these have been applied to the man in El Paso? I realize I'm reading New Hampshire statute, but it's just the disorderly that I'm easily able to pull up. So was he disrupting orderly conduct of business? Not really. He left sooner than they would have liked him to. Is that a disruption of the orderly conduct of business? I mean, he wasn't disorderly in the way that he left. The testimony was that he just kind of left normally. He didn't wheel his vehicle towards the officer or threaten anyone. He just kind of pulled away, didn't accelerate, didn't burn out his tires or anything like that. Part C, disrupting any lawful assembly or meeting of persons without lawful authority. So there's a lot of this kind of general disrupting statements here that maybe you could have gotten him under because he was making noise or disrupting the orderly conduct of business. But either way, I would say it'd be a tough call to get him convicted on some of this. And when it comes to disorderly conduct, really it comes down to the question of, do you want to argue in court whether or not this officer was correct in giving a lawful order? Was this officer right or not? The officer sure does think he was right, and that's why he's arresting you for it.
Right.
Or why
and Western civilization would crumble is always it's always what they come back to. Look, if we don't do what the police say, Western civilization crumbles. But that argument didn't hold water in Nuremberg, and it wouldn't hold water here.
So you want another example of this? Go to freekeen.com. There's a video I just posted. It's actually 2 months old, but I finally got around to cutting it up today, of me outside of a Ben Carson campaign event where Keene police threatened me and tell me I need to get over to this certain area outside of an alleged secure zone, or else I'm going to be arrested, presumably for disorderly conduct, but I didn't get what for. It was likely going to be for that. And the officer in this case, Jason Short, threatens me because I'm not moving fast enough. So I'm actually leaving as he had requested, like Dave Ridley does, slowly backing out from a situation. But he said he was going to arrest me if I didn't get out within 3 seconds. And I don't think it would have held water, but I didn't feel like getting arrested that day. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Ian Freeman, host of Free Talk Live. We've been covering Uber for years on the radio with their ongoing legal cases across the globe defending your right to give people rides without asking government permission. I wanted to support Uber more directly, so I signed up to be a driver. It's fun to meet new people and help Uber push forward innovation. As of this recording, Uber is active in 67 countries, so there's a good chance they're available in your area. If you'd like to drive for Uber and make some money helping people get where they want to go, sign up at drive.freetalklive.com, and you'll get a $100 bonus after you complete a certain number of trips. With Uber, you can drive anytime you want. You set your schedule. To get started, you need a good driving record, 4-door vehicle, insurance, registration, and to pass a background check. It costs nothing to sign up, so visit drive.freetalklive.com. That's drive.freetalklive.com. And if you just want to try Uber as a rider, visit ride.freetalklive.com. Your first ride's free.
If you want to move to the free state and you're looking for some real estate.
Oof, I think we've all had enough of that jingle, don't you? If you're going to invest in property in New Hampshire, it just makes sense to support a liberty-friendly realtor. Call Mark Warden of Team Porcupine Real Estate for investment property or rentals in the Free State, or visit his website. Come on, you know it.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Did you know that you can listen to and watch Free Talk Live during our live show 7 days a week from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern via our studio cam at cam.freetalklive.com? Not only that, but you can also chat with other listeners at the same time. Do I need to mention that both the studio cam and chat room are totally free? Outside of Free Talk Live's live hours, you won't see a cam feed, but we'll hear audio from the Liberty Radio Network. So listen, watch, and chat all free at cam.freetalklive.com. That's cam.freetalklive.com.
The Call to Freedom is coming up next, live after the news on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Temporarily from the Gulf Coast in Biloxi, Mississippi, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Sunday, February 28th, 2016. Silver is trading at $14.70 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,223 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $431. Antiwar.com reports as the Syrian ceasefire took effect, Turkey reiterated its serious concern about the plan after insisting in the last few days that they believe the ceasefire benefited the Russians and that they don't intend to be bound by the ceasefire themselves. The big objection by Turkey, though, as with everything even tangentially related to Syria, is the inclusion of the Kurdish YPG in the ceasefire, saying that if the US and Russia want to exclude the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, they must also include the Kurds. The ceasefire went into effect midnight on Saturday Syrian time and has held so far, though the ceasefire explicitly excludes both the Islamic State and the Neutral Front. There have not been reports of any major happenings in their territory since then either, nor has Turkey attacked the Kurds in Syria so far since. The YPG, like most of the groups that endorse the ceasefire, say it reserves the right to respond if attacked. In either case, the most likely row would be with Turkey, as the Islamic State is not a party to the ceasefire and is their primary other opponent.
Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com.
UPI reports an executive and 2 companies pled guilty in federal court on Friday to marketing packages of cheese containing unacceptable amounts of wood pulp as 100% real Parmesan and Romano cheese. Castle Cheese Company executive Michelle Murter pled guilty to a misdemeanor of aiding and abetting to introduce misbranded and adulterated cheese products to interstate commerce. 2 other companies, Universal Cheese and Drying Incorporated and International Packaging LLC, also pled guilty to conspiring to introduce misbranded cheese and money laundering. Each corporation faces a fine of $500,000. Murter can face a 1-year sentence in prison, a $100,000 fine, or both, depending on the seriousness of the offense and her past legal history. U.S. Attorney David J. Hickton said the Department of Justice prosecutes people and companies who introduce adulterated or misbranded food into interstate commerce. In this case, the fraud was perpetrated on consumers who purchased Parmesan and Romano cheese that were inferior to what they believed they were buying. A 2013 Food and Drug Administration report found that items labeled as 100% real Parmesan and Romano cheese distributed through the companies to various stores contained a combination of Swiss, mozzarella, and white cheddar cheeses, as well as wood pulp. The cheeses labeled as 100% real Parmesan and Romano cheese did not meet the FDA standard for such products and contained more than the permitted amount of cellulose, which derived from wood pulp, was used as filler. The mislabeled packages did not pose any health or safety threats to consumers, but they were sold under several brand names, which had no knowledge of the fraud.
For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co.
Reuters reports Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton crushed rival Bernie Sanders at the South Carolina primary on Saturday, propelling her into next week's crucial Super Tuesday voting in 11 states on a wave of momentum. The rout of Sanders solidified Clinton's status as the strong frontrunner to capture the party's nomination for the November 8th election in her quest to become America's first female president. After the win, Clinton appeared to be looking ahead to a general election matchup with Republican frontrunner Donald Trump. The result in South Carolina was Clinton's 3rd victory in the first 4 Democratic contests. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
In a dramatic scene last night, a coalition of the nation's damaged women staged a drunken, tear-soaked march on the Capitol just after 2 a.m. Jane Carmichael has more.
Thank you, Brooke. The damaged women began their protest yesterday afternoon, marching on the National Mall at about 4 p.m., and then marching away furious, saying they were done with Congress once and for all. But then they came back again late last night, insisting that someone in Washington listen to them for once. The late-night protests started with tearful apologies, but quickly moved to anger as marchers demanded that Congress pass a bill making it illegal to say you love someone and then up and leave as soon as there's one little problem.
Why are you ignoring us? Stop ignoring us! Why don't you hear me when I talk to you?